Good afternoon, all of you. So, welcome you in this platform of KSG. And for next 2.5 hours, we are going to discuss about those questions which have been asked in the open test. Today, I think most of you, or in fact, I wish all of you must have appeared this open test. And let me ask you this question, like, how was this open test? So, if you divide this open test in terms of easy, hard or moderate, I would say the test was moderate kind of thing. And if you people will ask, sir, what would be the score which is good for this particular paper, I would say 110, 115 easily scored by these questions or questions which we have asked. So, in the next few minutes, I am going to discuss economics and history part. Economics and history part. And my fellow teammates, Kinsuk sir and Talib sir, they will deal with other parts. So, what is the purpose of this open kind of test? And we have fixed the time frame also, 11 to 1. What is the purpose of it? To acquaint you with the UPSC kind of atmosphere, environment. Because it's in the month of January. In the month of May, your prelims examination is there. You should start your preparation from now onwards and try to solve questions almost on weekly or fortnightly basis. Because the more you practice, this is good for you. Try to find out your what we call this problems, or try to find out those loopholes in your preparation with respect to your revision, with respect to your question solving aptitude. So try to do that on your own, so that before you go for the UPSC prelims, you must have solved at least 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 questions, so that you will feel the confident before you enter the examination hall, which is going to held on the month of May. So I think commonly among the aspirants, this saying is there that judge yourself before UPSC judge you, or evaluate yourself before UPSC evaluates you. That is the motto of this open test, and try to give that environment for you, so that you will be acquainted with that, and kind of easy atmosphere for you when you go for the real-time exam of UPSC prelims. So without wasting any time, let's begin with the question which we have asked in the economics and history. So before going to the question paper, let me tell you something about this economic. So first I am going to pick questions on the economy. If you see the previous year trend of economics or economy which has been asked by UPSC, then you will find a particular trend on that. For example, try to find out those topics which are favorite or UPSC is asking multiple times. I am not saying about the questions, I am saying about the topics. So if you go through the previous year question paper, you will find topics like money and banking is the topic which UPSC is asking regularly. So our job is to, whenever we revise this economy, we begin from this money and banking. Similarly, if you see this balance of payment chapter, this is another topic which UPSC is asking regularly. So money and banking, second is balance of payment chapter. Equally, this fiscal policies again is a chapter which is asked by UPSC on regular basis. So why I am highlighting these topics? Before this trend of past year papers, you can identify those key areas from where UPSC is asking question. So that should be your priority. You should cover these topics on the 360-degree aspect. Okay, that is why we are focusing on this chapter topics multiple times. So let's begin from the question which we have asked in in this open test. So this is your first question on economy. Consider the following statement with reference to liquidity trap. What is this liquidity trap? I think if you have read the 12th class NCERT macroeconomy, then you must have understood this concept. Presently, if you see, the global economy is in slowdown, so there could be a possibility UPSC asked this question on this year. So this is your liquidity trap, what we call the diagram. What is this liquidity trap? Simply, I think answer you have, answer is mentioned in your what we call the explanation. I'm not going to that, what would be the answer. I'm simply trying to explain this concept. Liquidity trap is something, generally it is found in the economy at the time of what we call slowdown of that economy, or the economy is not a good shape. Why? Because people try to keep more cash on their hand rather than investing on those financial instruments, for example bond, shares. So they find preferable, or they more suitable to carry cash rather than the invest, because the return, or what we call the rate of interest, is very less from those bonds or financial instruments. That's why they carry cash. They prefer to carry cash rather than investing in those financial instruments. This is number one. Now, next question is, I think you know, when money supply increases in the economy, then what happens? The cost of borrowing reduces. Although the cost of borrowing reduces, this investment does not increase in the economy. Why? Because those return on the capital or return on the investment is very less, because there is what? Slowdown in the economy. So when government tries to inject money into the economy through its monetary policy, through its central bank, then those money supply into the economy is not that much effective, or you can say ineffective in nature. Since slowdown in the economy, people will prefer more cash in hand rather than investment, because they do not find their investment is something fruitful or will give a high amount of return. That is why this is known as liquidity trap. That means economy is trapped in that particular phase where rate of interest is something parallel to the x-axis, or what we call the infinite. Okay, this is what the concept is all about. So there could be a possibility, since in the present time, after this COVID phase, although many economy or many government is trying to recover this phase or bad phase of economy, but still global economy has not recovered it yet. So there could be a possibility UPSC asked this question on your prelims day. This was your first question. Coming to the second economy question, consider the following alternatives. The first one is open market operation, second one is SLR, and the third one is forex swaps with the banks. See, this question is all about, again, this regulation of money supply or regulation of liquidity in the economy. So how central bank, or in particular to India, Reserve Bank of India regulates this money supply in the economy. The one aspect is open market operation. That is what? A quantitative measures. I think you know that RBI controls this money supply through quantitative as well as the qualitative tools. So open market operation is a quantitative tool to control the money supply in the economy. Similarly, this SLR also, another statutory liquidity ratio, the ratio which the commercial banks, they keep with themselves with respect to what? Gold, cash and government securities. So this is another tool to regulate the money supply in the economy. And the third one is forex swaps with the bank. That means foreign exchange or foreign currency exchange with the banks. How? If you have little idea about this balance of payment chapter, or little idea how the central bank intervenes in the foreign exchange market, then you can clear about it. How? Let's say if foreign currencies is coming to your economy, foreign currency inflow is there. So due to a high amount of inflow of foreign currencies, RBI intervenes, or RBI tries to absorb that extra foreign currencies from the economy when, or let's say dollar, when RBI absorbs dollar, against that RBI supplies what? Indian currency or domestic currency. So in a way, although RBI tries to manage the exchange rate, but at the same time RBI or the government face another problem, that is increase in money supply, because you are exchanging dollar with respect to domestic currency. This is how RBI also regulates what? The liquidity in the economy. So the question is not about whether increase in money supply or decrease in money supply. Simply the question have been asked that what or how this liquidity is regulated in the economy. So through these three what we call instruments, open market operation, SLR and forex swaps with the banks, we can regulate this liquidity in the economy. Okay. Coming to the next question. Next question is again something conceptual in nature, and this question is all about incremental capital output ratio. What is this incremental capital output ratio? This is again something already been asked by UPSC multiple times, I would say. So whenever you study the saving investment chapter, just try to focus on this particular topic or concept. What is this ICAR? ICAR, or incremental capital output ratio, means how much return your economy is giving by investing additional unit of capital. How much return your economy is creating, generating or giving with the investment of additional unit of capital. So this is what is known as the ICAR. So if you go through the question, then it is very much, from explanation you will get the answer, but I am going to the concept here. So what is the purpose of this ICAR? What is the purpose to evaluate this ICAR? The purpose is you can judge or you can measure the efficiency of ICAR, efficiency of economy through this ICAR. What is that? Suppose if the value of this incremental capital output ratio is less, then you can say that your capital which is invested in the economy is generating higher amount of return. That means if the value of ICAR is less, your economy is more efficient. If your ICAR value is more, that means you need, your economy generating less return from your capital investment. So that means your economy is less efficient. So this concept is very much significant with respect to the what we call this movement or this growth or downfall in the economy. So whenever, let me give you one example. Suppose policy paralysis is there, crony capitalism is there in the economy, projects have been delayed, then what would happen? Your investment is not giving adequate amount of return in the economy. Then your ICAR value would give a higher rate. That means your economy is not that much efficient. When your projects have not been delayed, that means it is completing at its own stipulated time or given time. Your what we call this capital investment is giving higher amount of return. This ICAR value is less. That means your economy is functioning very well and your economy is efficient in nature. So this is what this ICAR is all about. So try to keep this thing in your mind. This is a conceptual question and is very much significant with respect to our present scenario of our economy. Okay. Now, moving to the next question. The next question, which is your REER and NEER. This has been again asked by UPSC last year itself. Let me tell you briefly what is the difference between the two. Your REER is something. Your REER is something which is adjusted NEER. When you adjust this nominal effective exchange rate with respect to what? With respect to price level or inflation, then that would become what? Real effective exchange rate. And what is this nominal effective exchange rate? That is your with respect to weighted average of this trade volume of your country with other countries. That is the difference between the two. So REER and NEER. If you go to the question, you can easily that increase in REER means decline in trade competitiveness. Yes, that means your import basket is higher than your export. Your export is not competitive enough in the global economy. That is what this first statement is all about. This increase in REER means decline in trade competitiveness. And of course, this every indices, I think you know, has the base year. So every indices has a base year and it is calculated on that. So it keeps changing by the government on its own data and all. So this is what we have asked in the second statement. And the third statement is REER basket of India consists of currencies of all of India's trade partners. India has many trade partners. It's not possible to cover all those trade partners in this particular REER. So we have almost covered 39 or 40 countries and rest countries we have not included. That is why this third statement is incorrect. So this something is very much important. They can, if you go through the previous year paper, you will have idea that UPSC repeat topics. So there could be a possibility they can ask you again this question. So try to clear your concept of this NEER and REER. Okay. Coming to this question, deceive. This is something interesting. This question have not been asked by UPSC yet. There is a possibility they can ask you. Deceive is something domestic systematically important banks. In common language, it is known as banks too big to fail. This has been started from 2015 onwards. And this concept was started from 2015 onwards. Now, why this has been started? I think you know that 2008 to 10, India was suffering from big crisis or due to this subprime crisis in the US in particular or in global economy in general. So India also learned that lesson from that particular crisis, that we should make such bank that those banks should not fail in the adverse scenario in the economy. We need to consolidate those banks. We need to what we call increase the scale of operation of those banks. So that's why RBI, Reserve Bank of India, has identified such banks. Those are known as what? Domestic systematically important banks. And one of the criteria of this bank is banks whose assets exceed 2% of GDP are considered part of this group. If you see what are those banks were considered or they come under this category. So these banks are your ICICI Bank comes under this category. Yes, SBI, ICICI Bank and HDFC Bank. So these are too large to fail. Its operational scale is higher. So it is not easy to, fail in any bad situation in your economy. That's why these banks have been kept under different or in a significant category or in a particular group. Now, related to this banking, there are few concepts which you might seen in your preparation phase. Let me highlight that. One is capital adequacy ratio. Again, this is something related to that every commercial bank should maintain a proportion of their capital, so that at the time of any kind of bad phase of the economy, that bank can or will be able to survive in the economy. So that mandatory maintenance of your capital is known as what? Capital adequacy ratio. Similarly, you might have seen in the previous year question paper, Basel norms have been asked by multiple times. Basel norms, this is something related to commercial bank again, and this is related to this, that banks should be maintained or follow certain guidelines so that they would not fail during the bad phase of the economy. That India is also trying to, I think you have seen that merging of banks, many such banks have been merged into a single banks. What is the purpose of that merging of banks? That range of or the scale of operations should be at a higher side so that they will be able to sustain themselves during the economic crisis. This is why this concept have been developed from time to time by central bank of our country. Now moving to the next question. Next question is something related to this agriculture. Which of the following expenditures of the government on agriculture will be considered as non-market distorting? Now, if you see this market distorting and non-market distorting, let me tell you. What is this market distorting? If any kind of expenditure in the agriculture which is not productive in nature, that is known as what? Market distorting. Any kind of expenditure in the agriculture which is not productive in nature, they are known as market distorting. But any expenditure which is productive in nature, they are known as what? Non-market distorting. For example, market distorting. Let's say minimum support price. Option is there. Minimum support price. Do you think, what is the purpose of minimum support price? Minimum support price could be asked this year because of this continuous farmers protest related to this mandatory of minimum support price, or their demand is to make this minimum support price legalize. Okay. So this minimum support price is what? A base price. Below that, no farmer would sell it in the market, their production, their crops or their agricultural products. So this is the base price what we talk about. So do you think with the help of this minimum support price directly related to increase in productivity of agriculture? No. It simply assure farmers, you keep involving in the agricultural field or you keep producing those products. This is the idea. It's not directly linked with the production capacity of the agriculture. Second is power subsidy. If you see the northwestern belt of India, due to this green revolution, we started giving them this power subsidy, and they started exploiting those groundwater level by the use of this subsidized electricity. So first thing is this excessive electricity consumption. Second is excessive consumption of groundwater as well, because due to this MSP in the northwest belt or Punjab, Haryana, western UP, they started producing rice, and rice needs more water, and for more water they started exploiting those groundwater, and groundwater is depleting, and gradually it's polluting the groundwater level due to this excessive use of fertilizer for this rice and all. So these are interrelated concepts, and power subsidy minimum support price, they are not giving, or they are not directly linked with the what? Increase in productivity of agriculture. Apart from these two, if you see those other three options, let's say PM Kisan, we are giving direct cash to farmers to invest or to give inputs in the agriculture. So this is what will help in the productivity of agriculture. Second is your increased budget of ICAR, that means Indian Council of Agricultural Research, that means R&D, research and development we need to increase the agricultural productivity. Then the last one is Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, something you are giving insurance package to the farmers so that they keep involving in the production. Even if their crop is failed, they will be given the compensation. That is what it will incentivize farmers to increase the production or productivity of the economy. So these kind of help from the government are not market distorting, rather these two, power subsidy and minimum support price, these are market distorting in nature. So recently many newspapers are covering, or recently this thing in news, that power subsidy should be abandoned, which has been given in the agricultural sector. Okay, that's why we have asked this question. Now coming to the next question. Yes, this is something, another important question. UPSC have not asked it yet. Let me tell you, I think you know this, what we call this business cycle. This is the phase of expansionary, and this is the phase of what? Contractionary, or this is the phase of what? Inflation and economy is performing well, and this is the phase of what? Downward falling of the economy. So what is this pro-cyclical and counter-cyclical? We'll come to this question later, but first let's see what is this pro-cyclical. Pro-cyclical concept means if government is doing along, or government is executing its fiscal policy along with the cycle of the economy, or cycle of this business cycle, or what we call this trends in the economy, or the, in simple language we can say, mood of the economy. So at the time of expansion, or at the time of inflation, let's say you are spending more in the economy, that means expansionary fiscal policy. At the time of downward phase of the economy, you are doing, or you are spending less in the economy. This is what we call the pro-cyclical. If you want to counter these trends, inflationary and deflationary, if you want to counter these trends, if you use the opposite policy, then it would be known as what? Counter-cyclical in nature. So at the time of, let's say, inflation, you have to control the expenditure so that inflation could be managed. Through how you can control that expenditure? By imposing more tax. At the time of this downfall, what you have to do? You have to inject money into the economy, you have to increase the expenditure in the economy so that the economy will revive. Economy will revive. So this is what counter-cyclical in nature. So this is what we have asked in this question. So providing tax holidays to industries means you are incentivizing those, what we call, industries to produce more, to increase their production capacity and all. Okay, this is what we call this counter-cyclical at the time of economic slowdown. Okay, this is something related to current affairs. In the month of June itself, last year it was asked by UPSC, this Banks Board Bureau, what is the role of Banks Board Bureau, and in the month of June, by a new, you would say, this Bank Board Bureau has been changed to, or replaced by this Financial Services Institutions Bureau. now the job of bank board bureau would be done by this Financial Services Institutions Bureau. So what would be their role? Their role would be to find out those top level management directors and of those public sector banks, of those state financial companies or insurance companies and all. Along with that, this Financial Services Institution Bureau would help in terms of strategy or prepare of those strategies or policies to those banks as well. So along with this top management or this appointment of directors and those MDs of those public sector banks and insurance companies, it would help strategizing to those banks as well. Okay, this could be asked this year prelims, so please be careful with this question. Coming to the next, yes, cooperative banks, if you see at the village level, this primary agricultural credit societies operate. At the what we call this block level, at the mid level, this or you can say this district level, the central cooperative banks operate, and at the state level, those state cooperative banks operate. If you see the primary agricultural credit societies, they are not registered with what? They are not regulated by RBI. This central cooperative banks and this rural cooperative banks, or those who operate at the state level, they are regulated by the RBI. So we have asked the first question, they are not regulated. Yes, that statement is correct, because they are regulated under the not on the RBI, rather they regulated under the State Cooperative Act. Okay, this is what we have asked this question. Coming to this consolidated sinking fund, if you see this question, this question is all about, let me show you. If you see, RBI manages two funds of every state government. One is this consolidated sinking fund and another one is guarantee redemption fund. Now, what are those funds? This consolidated sinking fund is an fund which meet this repayment obligation of state government. That means if any such, let's say, any kind of borrowing, any obligations that state government has, then they manage with the RBI to repay it under this CSF. And what is this GRF? Again, something which is managed with the RBI, that is kind of obligation arising out of guarantees. Guarantees means if any such kind of financial instruments that state government have issued to raise funds, so in near future they have to repay it back, that is also maintained by the RBI for on behalf of the state governments. If you see the functions of RBI, they would you know that RBI manages this loan or borrowings of what? State as well as the central government. So this is one something related to that only. That means RBI manages this borrowing of central and state government, and these funds are maintained by RBI to serve that purpose. Now coming to this question, GST. And GST is something, if you see the last 5 years itself, 3 to 4 times the GST have been asked by UPSC. Now let's see what is this question. I think second and third statement you will be able to understand, but let me come to the first statement. First statement says, imposing GST on petrol and alcohol for human consumption will need an amendment of the constitution. Simply this question is all about, if any product or any item you want to include in the GST list, whether it requires an amendment of the constitution or not. This question is, or the theme of this statement is this. So let me tell you, when this GST have been passed, or this act have been passed in 2016, it has been defined what are those products which we have already included, and what are those products or goods and services which GST Council has the power to include in latter phase with the consultation of states. And the third aspect, that is alcohol for human consumption, this has been kept outside of this definition of GST. That is, what are the goods and services that has been brought under the GST and which will be brought under the GST with the consultation of state. In that category, this has been kept outside. So if any such decision would be made to include this alcohol for human consumption in the GST, then it has to, or the government has to amend the present definition of GST, then only you can include that. I think you got my point. So this question is something tricky, and this first statement is that all about. So if you can get this kind of question in the UPSC itself. So try to understand this concept. So very definition we need to amend if we include this, because in the present definition this has not been included. Okay, this is what in this question, or we are trying to ask. Okay, the next question is about the balance of payment. The first one is FDI is a non-debt creating inflow of money. Second is loan forwarded, and the third one is NRI deposits. If you see the BOP, then it has two accounts. One is current account, another one is your capital account. If you see the current account, then current account consists of what? Export and import of goods and services. And the net factor income from services. The first part is only goods, and the service part comes under the B, that is net factor income from services. When you divide these services, that is again one is factor income, another one is non-factor income. What is that factor income? Factor, that is all those four factors of production they contribute, and non-factor, that is, let's say those services like medical tourism or tourism, construction, communication, transportation, they come under what? This current account. And what are those capital account? Capital account is investment, commercial borrowing, okay? And the third one is what we call borrowing from multilateral institutions. What is that multilateral institutions? Those IMF, World Bank, etc. Okay, so come to this question. FDI is a non-debt creating inflow of money. That's correct. And FDI is part of what? Capital account. Non-debt means, that means it's not a debt. In FDI is something what? Investment. Loan forwarded and interest earned. This interest earned comes under what? Current account. Interest is earned by the factors of production, that is capital. Okay, this interest earned under the current account. NRI deposits, or those NRIs they deposit with the Indian banks abroad, that comes under what? Capital account, and this is something crucial part of or component of capital account. Okay, so answer is in front of you. Coming to the next. Okay, this is quite interesting. Let me tell you. I think if you have read those 12th class macro economy NCERT, you must have seen in that balance of payment chapter, rate of interest defines the exchange rate. In that particular subtopic or in that concept, we have seen that where the rate of interest is higher, the investment comes to that economy. Suppose if you compare this US India, if US is offering 10% higher than the Indian rate of interest, then investment would come to US, right? So investment increases. So in recent months, when US central bank or Federal Reserve increased the interest rate, investment started inflowing to the US economy. That means even if investment from India also started going to the US economy. So when investment withdrawal happened from the Indian economy and they went to US, then currency of India started what? Depreciating. So here we have written appreciation. This is not the right one. So currency depreciation started. Now, next aspect is when currency depreciation started, the Indian economy is importing the same basket of goods with a higher price. That's why we have given what? Imported inflation. Okay. So first part is with the increase in interest rate by the US Federal Reserve, capital flight started from India. Outflow from India, inflow to US. That's why the currency started, or domestic currency of India started depreciating. And the third component or third consequence is due to this excessive depreciation of Indian currency, Indian import was costlier. So this is what we have written, imported inflation, which is true. Now, I think this much was the, okay, this is the last question in the economy, fractional reserve banking, and answer is only a fraction of bank deposits that are required to be available for withdrawal. So every bank they have to keep a certain amount for the future time. They have to manage those guidelines given by the RBI, and fraction they can give to those borrowers in the economy. So this is what we call the fractional reserve banking. Okay, this is a straightforward question. Okay, now I am coming to this history part. If you see the history, it could be modern, medieval, ancient, or a subpart which we call art and culture. So whenever you prepare for your history, then you have to remember certain aspects which we have seen in the previous year question papers. The first one is important events you have to identify. For example, those movements in the modern India, important events. The second one is the timeline. We'll see what kind of questions UPSC ask under this timeline format. And the third one, obviously, those important personalities and their contribution. Okay. So these three you would find the trend in the previous year question paper, and this is something common for all the history part. Okay. So let's come to the question. The first question is why this Subhash Chandra Bose and this Jawaharlal Nehru, the young leaders of Congress, they established what? Independence for India League. The answer is they were dissatisfied on the Nehru report, which has been Nehru, that is the Motilal Nehru. He submitted a report in 1928, and this Nehru report suggested not the complete independence, rather it suggested dominion status, and they were quite dissatisfied with that. That's why they formed this. So you need to see those personalities and their contribution, which is this kind of question comes under that personalities part. Coming to the next question, Madras Session of 1927. This Madras Session of 1927 means sessions of Indian National Congress is important for us. Sessions of Indian National Congress is important for us. If you see those previous year question paper, multiple questions have been asked on these Congress sessions, their resolution or presidency of Indian National Congress session, or any certain key aspects or significant events have been done under this Indian National Congress sessions. UPSC is asking questions on that. So this is something high priority topic for you. Just try to cover that. So consider the following statement regarding the Madras Session of 1927 that is related to Indian National Congress. This question is all about that Congress session only. Okay. So I think answer is in front of you. We can easily get that. So my job is to show you the trend or kind of questions UPSC is asking. We need to find out that. This is again something related to, if you see the previous year question paper again, you will find that this education is something, Macaulay Minot, Wood's dispatch, this something related to this colonial education or this education which has been developed by those British rulers. So this kind of questions they are asking continuously. You need to follow that, the evolution of education in the British era. Okay. Coming to the next question, Home Rule League movement is again another event, and this has been launched by Annie Besant. So when this Gandhi under the leadership, the movement was phased out, this Annie Besant tried to exploit the energy of common man, and she started this Home Rule League movement. So this part is all about, or what is the factors, the formation of Home Rule League movement. This is something event. I have already told you, when you cover the history part, just try to find out those important events. Yes. So under that important events, those movements, for example, Swadeshi movement, non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, Quit India movement, they are something significant, or they are important from our exam point of view. Okay. Yes, again, this is something question related to timeline. This is the question related to timeline, chronological order of the above events you need to find out. So whenever you study history, it could be your ancient, medieval, modern, or art and culture, just try to find out the timeline of that, a kind of mind map you need to do. Okay, so this is something related to this timeline. Coming to this question, yes, if you see this question, the Surat split, and this is what, 1907. The Surat split is related to what? The session of Indian National Congress. Again, I am repeating that. Sessions are important of Indian National Congress. So these are something, the nature of questions that UPSC is targeting or asking on regular basis. If we follow the trend, I think the journey would be easier for you, so that we can do maximum questions in the prelims 2023. So more such open test would be from our side, that would happen before your real time exam or real D-Day by the UPSC before this 28th May, and soon will come up such notice, or this few more tests we will conduct. So thank you all. I am my other fellow team members, they would discuss those other subjects or topics with you. So stay there, and we'll meet soon. Thank you all.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. So Jatadhari sir has already discussed some of the portions which has already been there in the open test, and I hope that all of you have gone through it, and I myself have seen the questions, and I will say that it is there in the range of moderate. Okay, the questions are neither too very much easy, and it is not very much difficult also. It is in the average range, it is in the moderate range, and this is where you should easily score something above 100 marks. Okay, if you are getting 100 or 110 marks, then it would be a good score for you in the present moment. Okay, see, in the prelims examination, generally people are thinking about cutoff, that 99 or 95 is the cutoff, or 93 is the cutoff. But I will ask you that you should raise your bar of this cutoff a little bit higher. Suppose when you are preparing for this 110 marks, And even if you miss by 1 or 2 questions, then also you would be in a very safe zone, and then you won't have to think about whether I should check answers from this answer key or that answer key. This is the time when you can start working for that. Okay. And that's why we have planned this open test in the early time of this preparation for prelims. This can give you a review of how well you are prepared for this examination, what are the things that you have to keep in mind. Okay. Our intention was not simply to give you a test. It was also to tell you that what are the pattern of the question, what are the areas from where the questions are very much frequently asked, and also what is the pattern of the question. Like when you are reading about any such a specific topic, what are the things that you must keep in mind while reading those topics. And even in our discussion, which is going on presently, we don't have to simply see that what would be the answer of any question. Rather than that, we have to focus on how the questions are actually framed from certain areas. That is something which we have to keep in mind. Okay. Now, so I am going to discuss the questions from 3 different areas. One from certain questions from environment, certain questions from geography, and certain questions also from science and technology. Okay. So these are the 3 areas from where I will be taking some questions, and I will try to explain that how you have to approach the question, and not only the question, but how also you have to prepare for these topics. I know that many of you are giving the prelims first time on this 28th of May, okay, this year, and you should also have an idea that how we should approach these topics. Whenever you are reading certain things from geography, like when you are reading this Indian geography section and you are reading about the drainage system, what are the things that you should keep in mind? That is also something which we want to impart in you. Okay. Now, let us discuss certain questions one by one, and we will see that how these topics or how these different terms has to be interpreted, how these questions has to be interpreted. Okay. See here, the first question is about Kuno National Park. Now, you might be aware that last year in 2022, there has been reintroduction of African cheetah in India. Okay. Cheetah has been reintroduced, and that too has been done in Kuno National Park. Kuno National Park is famous for one more important thing in the recent years. It was earlier a wildlife sanctuary, but now it has recently been upgraded as a national park. Okay. So 2 very remarkable things has happened in the recent past in this case of Kuno National Park. Okay. Let us see. Now, it is not that UPSC will simply ask you that where the African cheetah has been introduced. That is one portion, that is one type of question which has already been asked in 2017 and 18 also. Okay. They can also ask you about the features of this national park. Okay. And in features, when you are reading this national park, you should know that what are the rivers, what is the location, what is the type of vegetation, what are the fauna which are living in that area. Okay. See here, it is asking about the location, and it is saying that it is located in southern side of the Satpura range. But no, actually it is in the heart of the Vindhya range. It is not in the southern side, but rather than in the northern side. Okay. So it is in the northern, or you can say that heart of this Vindhya range where it is actually located. Okay. So first statement here would be incorrect. And then the second is the river Tapi flows through this national park. Again, it is an incorrect statement. The name of the national park is itself on the name of a river which passes through it, and that is our Kuno river. Okay. Then the third is about it is the first national park of Madhya Pradesh. Again, an incorrect statement. It has recently been converted into a national park, and here also what we know that cheetahs have been reintroduced. So this is one such area which you should know about. This is one such national park or protected area which you should be aware about. Okay. See the next question. Here we are talking about which of the following are tributaries of river Krishna. Now this is one favorite area of UPSC. Many a times they have asked question about these things. Okay, about the tributaries of sometimes of Brahmaputra, sometimes of Godavari, sometimes of other rivers. Okay, so how we can solve this or how we can approach this? You can make a tabular format. Okay, we have certain rivers. Certain rivers are there in the northern part of India, like you have Ganga, you have Brahmaputra, you have Indus. Okay, 3 major rivers. And then in the lower side, we have again certain important rivers like we have Godavari, we have Krishna, we have Kaveri, Mahanadi. Okay, so these rivers are there. Now what you can do, you can make a tabular format for them, and you can simply paste it wherever you are studying, or you can simply keep it in your notes, and whenever you are going through it, just go through it once. The things will automatically come to your mind. These are a bit of factual things, but again, if a question is coming from here, it is a quite easy question. Okay, it is something which is easy. It is simply your factual knowledge. Here, the very simple thing is, we have Koyna and Tungbhadra as the river, as the tributaries of river Krishna, whereas this Pranhita is the tributary of river Godavari, and Amravati is for river Kaveri. Okay, so this is, you can make a similar type of tabular format for remembering the different names of the tributaries. That is one portion. Second thing is, they can also ask you about the areas of origin. They can also ask you that where they have been originating from, in which range or in which part they have originated. So that is also one such thing which you should know about. Okay, so one thing you can read about the tributaries. Second thing, you can read about the types of the areas from where they are originating. You can also see the states from which they are passing. Nowadays, many of the rivers are also disputed in nature. Okay, there is dispute between different states for the water sharing. So if there is any such dispute, you should know about, at least if there are 3 or 4 rivers, important rivers like Krishna, Godavari, Kaveri, you should know. Mahanadi water dispute is also there. So you should know about which state it passes through, which are the states through which these rivers passes through, and then your work will be done in the drainage system. Okay. Then see here, climate change related events have become quite much popular. Like recently there was this COP15 of UNCBD, then COP27 of UNFCCC. These all are going on, and nowadays climate related events or climate related you can say that weather events have become quite much favorite topic for the UPSC. And one such thing is flash drought. Okay, so here basically the question is about, with reference to flash drought, consider the following statement. Okay, and the first is, majority of the flash droughts events in India occurred during the monsoon season. So what exactly is this flash drought? It is simply like this inadequacy of precipitation, and this varies according to the different season. It is not that throughout all the season there will be same amount of rainfall. Okay, but this flash drought is generally, it is seen that in Indian case, during the onset of monsoon, when there should have been adequate precipitation, due to climate change the monsoon is not there, or due to various factors the monsoon is delayed. Okay, and due to these factors we have witnessed flash droughts in the tropical regions at a very high frequency. Okay, so first statement is true. Second is incorrect. Okay, the highest frequency of flash droughts has been witnessed in tropical regions. You will find that although the countries which are located in temperate or subtropical regions are largely responsible for climate change, but the impact is higher in case of tropical areas and polar areas. Okay, so here again we see that the highest frequency of flash droughts has been seen in case of tropical regions. Okay, so that's why second statement is incorrect, the first one is correct. Okay, now look at another thing. Consider the following statement regarding the ocean tide. Now this is a textbook question. This is a textbook question, a very basic question, that what is the different types of tides which are occurring. They have asked about two different things, neap tide and spring tide. You know that spring tide occurs when the sun, moon and earth are in the same direction. Then we have this existence of spring tides. But neap tides occur when they are perpendicular to each other. When the sun and the moon is perpendicular to each other, then we have occurrence of neap tides. So this is something which is textbook question. You have two very important books, Fundamentals of Physical Geography and India Physical Environment, class 11, okay, NCERT. If you have gone through these booklets, you could easily solve them. These are textbook questions, simple questions, and you should not be doing mistake in them. See how you can approach them. Let's also discuss that, how we can approach these things, or how we can remember these things, memorize these things. Whenever you are reading certain topics from geography or any other subject like polity or any other things, try to make a flow chart of what are the different topics that we have studied in a particular chapter. Okay, if you are making a flow chart, it will help you to recall the topic on the next day or sometimes after that. Okay, So try to make a flow chart of the topics that you have studied and make small, very small notes, like write one single word. Suppose you have seen that there are different types of tides, spring tides, neap tides. So simply write in front of neap tides perpendicular line. Okay. Simply write one word perpendicular. Okay. So next time when you are going through just this neap tide and you just see the term perpendicular, it will automatically come to your mind that okay, this is formed when the sun and the moon are in perpendicular direction to each other. Okay. So that is a textbook question, a simple question. Okay. Then again, which of the following factors affect the distribution of temperature on surface of Earth? What are the factors which are impacting it? You can see again three things are given here: the latitude of the Earth, the air mass circulation, and the pressure of ocean currents. Now latitude is a common thing which you know that as we are moving towards higher latitudes, as we are moving towards temperate areas or polar areas, then in that case the insolation becomes lower and lower. You can see in this image also, okay, they have to go through longer distance, so it becomes, and it covers a large area. So what happens that in the case of higher latitudes, the solar insolation or the temperature will be considerably lower. Okay. Then there is another thing, the air mass circulation. The air mass circulation. You can see here one very important thing. When we are talking about air mass circulation, let us first understand what exactly is air mass. Air mass refers to the huge amount of air over a particular type of climatic condition. Okay. Means the air over a large area, okay, having similar type of climatic condition acquires that nature, acquires that characteristics. Okay. Like suppose it is over a tropical ocean, it will acquire the characteristics of that type of climate. And when that air is moving, then in that case, it will influence the areas wherever this air mass is going. Okay. Similarly, you can see the air which is coming from the polar areas will have an impact in increasing or in decreasing the temperature. Okay. So air mass is having the characteristic feature of the climatic condition where it was originally. Okay. And whenever it is circulating, it is going to influence the climatic conditions or temperature conditions of the areas wherever it is going. Okay. So that is again one thing which you should keep in mind. The third is presence of ocean currents. You know, warm currents are there, cold currents are there, and these have also influenced the temperature distribution on surface of Earth. Okay. So all these three options are correct, and hence our answer would be D. Okay. See. Now see this one. This is a species which is very much in the news. Okay. And this is something which you should be very well aware about this year also. Okay. Great Indian bustards, their population has been declining. A lot of attraction is there. A lot of, you can say that focus is there on the conservation of these great Indian bustards. Their population has been declining at a very rapid rate. Now their population is very few, and these birds are quite much there in the news from last 3 or 4 years. Okay. So this is something which you should be aware about. Like nowadays, people are more looking into the African cheetah, which has been reintroduced, but at the same time, this great Indian bustard is something which you should know about. If you look at this bird, great Indian bustard, its population has declined at a massive rate, and it is in the critically endangered category right now. Okay. It is in a critically endangered category. Okay. Less than 200, its population is less than 200 right now. It is something around 140, 150. Okay. And earlier, it was over a large area, but now it is concentrated in the state of Gujarat and Maharashtra mostly. In some other areas it can be found, but it is mostly concentrated in this area. One more very important thing which you should keep in mind. Okay. This is the bird which favors dry and airy type of vegetation. It is not looking for any wet area or moist area. It is something which is looking for a dry and airy type of vegetation. Now what is happening? In Rajasthan region, we are trying to convert a large number of area in agricultural lands, and for that canals have been built up, even various methods of water conservation and irrigation has been developed there. And now due to irrigation of the fields, due to this spread of irrigation of the fields, the great Indian bustards are losing their habitat. Earlier, the areas were dry and airy type, so it was their habitat. But now agriculture has been expanding. More and more areas has been converted into irrigated areas, and this is destroying their habitat. Okay. So this bird is something which is in the news. It is also the state bird of Rajasthan. Okay. See the questions here. It is listed in the vulnerable category. Now we can understand, no, it is not vulnerable. Its population is very less, and it is declining also in the last 2 decades, last 4 or 5 decades. It has started declining from 1960s itself. Okay. So right now, it is in the critically endangered category. Second thing is, it is not found in moist deciduous. It favors dry and arid type of vegetation. Okay. Now see here one pattern. Whenever you are reading about a species, what you have to keep in mind? You have to first keep in mind that what is the IUCN status? That is one thing. Second thing is, there is also Wildlife Protection Act, and many a times they are mentioned in Schedule 1, 2, 3 or 4 of these Wildlife Protection Act. Okay. At the same time, you have CITES also, and for the migratory birds, we have CMS also, Convention on Migratory Species. So CITES has also these appendixes, Appendix 1 and 2. CMS has also these appendix. So these are the 4 areas which tells us about the conservation status of organism. So you must be aware about the IUCN status. Second thing, you should be aware about the wildlife protection schedules. Third thing, you should be aware about CITES, and fourth, CMS in certain cases. Okay. So these are the areas which you should be knowing about. Okay. Then at the same time, you will also see one more thing. It is found in moist deciduous. So second thing that we have to keep in mind is that we should also be aware about the habitat of the organism. Okay. That what is the habitat which it prefers. Okay. And one more thing is there, although this is not the part of the question, but one more thing is there. If there is some uniqueness about the species, some unique features which make them distinct or which makes them play a key role in the ecosystem, that is again something which you should be aware about. Okay. So if any distinct feature is there, if they are having some special mention somewhere, like here you can see that it is also the state bird of Rajasthan. So these type of unique things which are there, you must be aware about them. Okay. So habitat, its first thing is habitat, its conservation status. You should be also aware about what is its uniqueness, what is its that ecological niche, or what you can say that its unique feature. It is not going to be there for all the species, but in some species you will find it. Okay. Then here again, consider the following statement regarding the composition of the atmosphere, and then the second is the statement is, water vapor acts like a blanket, allowing the earth neither to become too hot, neither to become too cold or too hot. Okay. So this is one thing which is related with greenhouse gases. Okay. And second thing is, higher concentration of dust particle is found in the equatorial region in comparison to subtropical region. See, these two questions, and they are also simply from the fundamentals of physical geography, from the NCERTs. Okay. And here it is about, the first statement is more towards the greenhouse gases. Now here there is just this mention of water vapor, but there are other greenhouse gases also, like you have carbon dioxide, you have methane, you have nitrous oxides, you have halogens. These are four major prominent greenhouse gases. The major prominent greenhouse gas, the most prominent greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide, responsible for almost 3/4 of global warming, followed by methane. Okay. So that is again something which you should be aware about. Now, water vapor is also a sort of greenhouse gas, although its impact is not very much huge because it doesn't remains in the environment for a longer period of time, and also it fluctuates according to different areas. Okay. But this is true that water vapor acts like a blanket. It absorbs the heat radiation which are going from the surface of the earth. Okay. So it is able to capture that, and that's why it also impacts, it also maintains neither too much heat nor too much cold in any particular area. Okay. Then the higher concentration of dust particle is found in equatorial region in comparison to subtropical region. Now this is an incorrect statement. You will see that, see, dust particles are originating everywhere, but the subtropical areas or temperate areas are relatively drier areas. They do not have that much of precipitation. And due to that, we find that the amount of dust particles is actually higher in cases of subtropical areas or temperate areas. Whereas in the tropical areas, the dusts are emanating from the surface, but at the same time, due to these continuous rainfall or moist type of condition, they do not remain in the atmosphere for a longer period of time. Okay. So this is something which you should keep in mind. Tropical areas are having so much of convection, but they do not have these dust particles. Rather than that, it is there in relatively drier zones of subtropical and temperate regions. Okay. So dust particles are not in equatorial and tropics, it is towards the polar region. That is something which you should keep in mind. Okay. Then, see, again here, it is about the different types of sand dune formation. Okay. And in sand dune formation, we have three things. First is about the longitudinal dunes, second is about the barkans, and third is about the transverse dunes. Okay. Now, here the first is simply saying that longitudinal dunes form wherever we have short supply of sand or supply of sand is poor and wind direction is constant. Okay. So this is something which is a correct statement. Generally, longitudinal dunes are formed in that area where you don't have that much huge supply of sand. Okay. And also the wind direction is almost constant. So you have a continuous deposition of the what you can say sand in a particular zone only, and that's why we get the longitudinal dunes. Okay. Whereas when we are talking about these barchans, okay, barchans and parabolic dunes, you can see here, barchans and parabolic dunes, they are quite opposite to each other. See one thing, in the Barkan dunes you have formation in this manner. In the Barkan dunes you have formation in this manner, whereas in the case of parabolic dunes we have formation in roughly this manner. Just a second. You have formation in this manner. Here you have formation of dunes in this manner. Okay. Now, wind direction is constant for both of them, but Barkan dunes are formed where we don't have any vegetation, we have a plain sort of land. In that areas we have generally formation of Barkan dunes. Okay. Whereas if you have vegetation cover, then the vegetation holds the sand, and due to which we have the formation of parabolic dunes in those areas. Okay. And here the statement is saying that when the sand surface is partially covered with vegetation. No, this won't be a Barkan dunes, this will be simply a parabolic dunes. Okay. The remaining two questions, the remaining two statements are correct, that longitudinal dunes are formed when supply of sand is poor, and transverse dunes are aligned perpendicular to the wind direction. Like you can see, this is the direction of wind and this is the direction of transverse dunes. So they are lying perpendicular to the direction of the wind. Okay. Many a times, it is easy to remember these things by simply drawing figures. Like suppose you are trying to remember them simply by reading the facts, reading the lines, it becomes difficult. So try to add certain figures while you are reading or while you are revising. Okay. Like suppose right now you have, you are reading through these fundamental of physical geography chapters, and you find that certain things, it is like confusing in nature. So rather than going through writing the words, you can simply make diagrams for them. And when you are seeing the diagrams, it would be much more easier to remember, plus it will take lesser amount of time when you are coming for the revision of the topics. Okay. So try to make more diagrams in case of geography. Try to see them through maps also, try to see them through diagrams also. That will make your task of remembering these things much more easier. Okay. Then, you can see here. Now, we have one more thing. This is about the vegetation in India, and here the question is about mangrove vegetation. Recently, if you have been following the news, a mangrove alliance for climate has been formed. Mangrove alliance for climate has been formed, and mangroves are there in the news right now. So you should know about the static portion of mangroves also, and also the current things which are going on. Okay. So right now, mangrove vegetation, there are two statements here. One is talking simply about, in India, the mangrove species found along the western coast are very luxuriant in comparison to the eastern mangroves. Now see, we have mangroves on the both side of our Indian continent, India. Okay. We are also having on the western side, we are also having on the eastern side. Okay. West Bengal is having the highest amount of mangroves, followed by Gujarat. Okay. But here in this region, we have various rivers which are depositing and forming delta. So they are bringing a lot of sediments, they are bringing a lot of nutrients. Okay. And in this area, you have heavy precipitation also. So the mangroves which are found across the eastern coast of India are relatively much more luxuriant. They are much more evergreen. They are much more diverse. Okay. They have taller trees. But when we are talking about the mangroves on the western side, okay, you will find that the trees are smaller. There is more existence of bushage. Okay. So this statement will be incorrect that we are having more amount of or luxuriant vegetation on the western coast and less in eastern coast. This is just opposite of it. Okay. And then second is about simply one thing. Mangroves can survive in areas with higher salinity. That is the characteristic feature of mangroves. Mangroves are not originally a species of, you can say, deltaic region. They were originally a part of terrestrial ecosystem, but they face huge competition there. So they generally move towards the estuaries or deltas, and there they have this capacity to survive even in a saline type of ecosystem. So that is their uniqueness, that is their characteristics. Okay. So wherever you are getting characteristics of mangroves, try to find out them, try to read more about mangroves this year. Like last year, they have asked about coral reef ecosystem. They have asked about this bio-rock technology. Okay. Now this year, mangrove is also there in the news. So you can read about it, and there might be some question about the mangrove ecosystem. Okay. You can see the extent of mangroves in India. We have along this coast also, along this coast also. But here it is much more luxuriant. It is much more diverse. Okay. Now, again, this question is about tropical cyclone. Okay. And here we have first state, the simple is, it is asking which of the following are not correct. Okay. So while you are solving question, you must be aware about these things. Whenever you are solving question, try to read it properly, that if there is anything not correct or incorrect written there. This is something which you have to keep in mind. Many a times you are knowing the answer, but then you mark it incorrect because you have not read the question properly. Each and every question has its own instruction. So see it very much clearly. Okay. Here it is saying which of the following are not correct with respect to tropical cyclones. Okay. Then here the question is, large sea surface with temperature higher than 27 degrees Celsius and pressure of Coriolis force is required for its formation. Simple concept of tropical cyclone, this is required. Then, pre-existing weak low pressure area or low level cyclonic circulation is also required. That is also true. The cyclones which cross 20 degree north latitude generally recurve and they are more destructive. We have recently seen that cyclone Oki was there. Okay, that turned very much destructive. Okay, so these three statements are correct. Now the second statement is about, these are known as typhoons in the Atlantic and hurricanes in the Western Australia. See here, when we talk about tropical cyclones, they are known as tropical cyclones in this area of Pacific. Okay, in the case of this Atlantic, they are known as hurricanes. Okay. Here, in the case of Australia, they are known as willy willies, and in the Indian Ocean, they are simply known as cyclones. Okay. So this was incorrect thing that they are known as hurricanes in the Western Australia. No, it is not known as hurricanes. Okay. Here it will be known as cyclones. Here it will be known as willy willies. Okay. So on the Indian Ocean side, it is known simply as cyclone. On the Pacific side, it is known as willy willy. Okay. So the names of cyclones are also asked sometimes. So you can also see that thing, and this will be called as a very simple question. Okay, this is not something which is difficult to interpret or difficult to remember. If you are just seeing the maps from time to time, simply by seeing the maps, like suppose you have Atlas, and while you are reading the world map, try to just indicate there that okay, the cyclones are known by these names in this area, so that even your maps become much more informative. You don't have to read only the things which are mentioned in the map. Rather than that, you can make the map much more informative. You can add certain things by pencil and then you can read it later also. Okay. Map reading is a very important part. Okay. Whenever you are going through the map of India, suppose you have simply seen a physical map of India. On one map, try to find out laterite soil on one day. or the different soil profile on one day. On the second map, try to find out what are the different types of local winds and what they are known by in different areas of the world. Okay. So when you are using maps to revise a topic, it becomes much more clear. You can use map for various other subjects also. You can use map for also denoting the different types of temples which are there in art and culture section, or you can also use it for demarcating certain caves and other areas which are there. Okay. So maps should be used by you in a proper manner. You can make it much more informative. And we generally have a tendency, when we are reading something, we have this tendency to forget it much more easier. But when you are seeing certain things, when we are looking at certain things, it remains in our mind for a longer period of time. The recalling ability there in case of images is higher. So you can just do that practice and you can indicate them on the maps also. Okay. Now, moving forward, we have a question about green hydrogen. Last in 2021, UPSC has asked about one simple thing. They have simply asked, what do you understand by the term blue carbon? Okay. And certain options were given there. Okay. Now, similarly, here what we are seeing, they are asking about green hydrogen. Green hydrogen has very much in the news, okay, in the last 1 year, just because we have also launched this green hydrogen mission, and we have to keep this in mind that certain terms like green hydrogen, brown hydrogen, blue hydrogen, okay, these are certain terms which are there, and you should be aware that what exactly they mean. All things are about the production of hydrogen fuels. But you should keep in mind that what exactly they are. When we are talking about green hydrogen, it is simply the hydrogen which has been obtained, the hydrogen fuel which has been obtained by the use of renewable sources of electricity. Suppose we have to perform the electrolysis process. So there what we are doing, we are simply using electricity from the renewable sources, then it will be called as green hydrogen. When you are using from the coal-based plants, from where CO2 are emitted, when you are getting the electricity for making the hydrogen fuel from a thermal power plant, then it will be known as brown hydrogen. And when you are getting the same thing from a thermal power plant, but at the same time you are actively capturing and sequestrating the carbon, then it becomes blue carbon. So here this is one thing which is a bit confusing. When we are talking about blue carbon means the carbon which is stored or captured in the oceanic ecosystem. But when we are talking about blue hydrogen, it is not about ocean ecosystem. It is simply about we have got the electricity from the thermal power plant or any other source, but the emission which was there, it has been captured and stored. Okay. So here we are not obtaining hydrogen from the oceans. Rather than that, the emissions has been captured. That is the only thing which you have to keep in mind. Okay. So try to read these terms. Then see the question here. Hydrogen generated from fossil fuel with carbon capture and storage option is called green hydrogen. No, this will be called as a blue hydrogen. Okay. Second is SITE program is an initiative under National Green Hydrogen Mission. Okay. Yes, this program has been enacted. This program is there, and two main components are there. Okay. One is production of this green hydrogen, and for that electrolyzer has to be also developed and all things have to be done. Okay. So we have got this National Green Hydrogen Mission, and under that this is the financing mechanism or a fund which is going to incentivize or in any way promote more electrolyzer and more green hydrogen production. Okay. So this is again one thing, National Green Hydrogen Mission. This one scheme you should be aware about this time also. One more scheme is there which is prominent in the last 2 or 3 years. That is this Deep Ocean Mission. Okay. Deep Ocean Mission was also there. So you should be aware about this Deep Ocean Mission also and this Green Hydrogen Mission also. These two are prominent ones for this time. Okay. See here, now it is about the soil. Consider the following statement with respect to laterite soil. Okay. And here, this is also a simple question in the manner that it has been directly taken from the NCERTs. Okay. Here the question is, laterite soils are widely cut as bricks for use in house construction. Basically, laterite soil simply is derived from the words latter, which means bricks. So yes, it is used for bricks construction. Okay. And here the other statement is laterite soils are formed in a region of scanty rainfall. No. It forms in the region where you have more rainfall. Okay. So this is one thing which is incorrect. These soils are rich in iron oxide and potash. That is true. That's why its color is also red. Okay. Laterite soil can be found in hilly regions of Orissa and Assam. You can see on the map here, we have this laterite soil in certain areas of Orissa also, okay, in certain areas of Assam also, okay. Then in these areas also we have the formation of laterite soils at multiple places, okay. So just go through this, just go through these maps which are given also there in NCERTs. If you are going through the map, then also you will get the clarity that where these things are located. So whatever map is there in the fundamentals of physical geography or India physical environment, you must see it very much clearly. Okay. And then the atlas which you are having or the plain maps which you are having, try to make them much more interactive, try to make them more informative for you. Okay. And it is going to help revise the topics. Okay. Moving forward, we have one more thing related to a bit of current affairs. Consider the following statement with reference to cloud seeding. And here it is written, it is a weather modification technology to create artificial rainfall. Okay. Yes, that is a correct statement. Cloud seeding is there for that purpose only. Okay. Then it is works only when there are enough pre-existing cloud in the atmosphere. That is also true. When you have clouds, then only you can do cloud seeding. Okay. And third is liquid propane and dry ice are used as chemical nucleus under the cloud seeding process. That is also true. Silver iodide is also used. Okay. So this is a simple question. It has been there in the news from 2016-17 also, 16-17 also. Okay. And right now we are going through a phase of this La Nina. But it has been said that in the upcoming years, we are again going to witness the phase of El Nino. And in that condition, the one question which we have discussed, flash drought conditions, it will become much more severe. And there, many a times the cloud seeding is also suggested. China has already been doing it. Many countries of the world has already been doing it. So you should be aware about this one thing also, cloud seeding. Okay. Then, this is again a portion of current affairs related to environment. If certain things are there in the news, if certain species are there in the news, then also you should know it. Okay. And see here, the pattern last year which UPSC has followed. So it's not that this year UPSC may follow the same pattern. It is not a guarantee, but then you should be prepared for all the formats also. That is one thing which you have to keep in mind. UPSC, if you see the examination level, if you see the toughness of the paper, it has been increasing year by year in the last 4 or 5 years. You can see that by the cutoff also. Although information has been, like nowadays you will find that we have very much availability of the information. Okay, all the things are there, multiple options are there for you. Graphics has also come up, so many things are there, but UPSC exam is getting a bit tougher and tougher year by year. And this is a new pattern which was there in 2022. So you should be working on these patterns also. Okay. In 2021 also they have again given this assertion and reasoning type of question. Now assertion and reasoning type of question was something which was asked earlier. For many years it was missing there. But then again they reintroduced it. And here again they have come with a new thing. Only one pair, only two pair, 4 or 5 different questions were there on this pattern itself. Okay. So this is something which you will have to keep in mind, that you should be at least prepared for it. If they don't ask it, it's good enough. Okay. You will have much more time to score good marks. Okay. But even if they ask it, then also you should be prepared for it. Okay. So prepare for the worst and assume for the best. That is simple thing you should be doing. Okay. And here you can simply see the discovery of certain species are there. Okay. Like Pangasius icaria, they are simply catfish. These Pseudohelis anomali, it is a crab, and this one is marine reptile. Okay. So 2 pairs are correct here. These are all related to current affairs. If you find certain species, try to make a chart for it. That is the simple thing you can do. Okay. Try to make a table of discovery of new species. Like you have this Current Connect magazine of KSG, and there you will find that all these species are mentioned. If any news discovery of a species is there, it is mentioned in the magazine also. So either you can collect from the newspaper or you can collect from the magazine, and from there you can study all these things. Okay. Then see it, certain questions from environment are also there, and this question is very much important because there is going to be amendment in a prominent act related to wildlife in India. Wildlife Protection Act 1972 is going to be amended. It is already in the process. It has been passed by Lok Sabha and it is there with Rajya Sabha. Maybe in the upcoming sessions it will be passed. Okay. And one very important thing is there. Okay. In 2006, there was an amendment of Wildlife Protection Act 1972 and two things were introduced. One was community reserve and another was conservation reserve. Okay. Another was conservation reserve. Now, these two have been formed, these two have been conceptualized under this Wildlife Protection Act. This community reserve is declared in those areas which are owned by the community or by the private individual, whereas conservation reserves are declared in those areas which are completely owned by the government. Okay. And the power to declare such things is with the state government. In the amendment in the Wildlife Protection 1972, there is going to be amendment, and now the central government, if you look at the provisions of bill, you will find that the central government will try to make sure that the power to declare this conservation reserves or community reserves will also be with the central government. So far it is with the state government only. Okay. So that is some change which is going to happen, and that's why the one which are there at the present time, you should be aware about it. Community reserves and conservation reserves. In the recent amendment, there is going to be some change about them also. If it comes before the time, before the prelims, just go through it once. Otherwise, remember what are the concept behind them. Okay. Now here it is, no area can be declared by community reserve if they are inhabited and completely owned by government of India. You must keep one thing in mind, that government can declare an area as a community area also if it is majorly held by the, you can say that, the private individuals or community land. Okay. So first statement is incorrect. Second is, it is not under the provision of Biological Diversity Act, rather than that it is under the provision of Wildlife Protection Act. Okay. So both these statements are incorrect. Then again, we have one question: which of the following are consequences of northward shift of intertropical convergence zone? You know that the intertropical convergence zone is not a fixed thing, it is a dynamic thing, and it also changes with apparent position of sun, and due to its change, multiple weather phenomena and other atmospheric circulation is also impacted. Okay. So you can see you can also just keep in mind one more thing, that try to see the actual map of this ITCZ. You will find that it is not moving in the same manner at all the places. Like here, suppose this is 0 degrees, so ITCZ is reaching at a very high point, more than 20 to 25 degree in case of area of Asia and India. Okay. Whereas if you look in the southern, in this region of North America and South America, it is a bit lower. It is less than, it is something around 10 degree. Okay. So try to find out the actual position of ITCZ. This is not the part of the question, but you should be aware that ITCZ is not a straight line across the globe. Okay. It is also having different bends according to the availability of land, okay, according to the presence of land features or vegetation features and other things, okay, according to the oceanic presence also. So it varies across the different regions, and that is why you should be aware about it. Okay. Now, here, what is the question? The question is about the consequences. Okay. Now, it is saying that which of the following are consequences? First thing is prolonged rainy season in far south of Nigeria. Now, if you look here, if you look at these portions, it is seen that in certain areas we are having more amount of rainfall due to the shift in, you can see this shift is very much pronounced in case of Asia and in case of Africa. Okay. So due to that, what we see in certain areas like in Nigeria, we are having two different types of season. Okay. The northern part is, you can say that, relatively drier, while southern part is getting some amount of rainfall. Okay. So across the area of the country, you will find that different seasons are existing. Okay. Then occurrence of the wet and dry season in northern hemisphere, that is the simple thing. Okay. Whenever the IT season is shifting, like in India also you can see, due to the shift of the IT season, we have this monsoon and other things. Okay. So yes, it is causing wet and dry season in northern hemisphere. Then modification in tricellular model of Hadley cell, Ferrel cell and polar cell, that is also true. When the IT season is shifting above, all the cells which are there, they will also be impacted. Okay. So again a textbook question, and this is again a simple thing. If you have simply read about ITCZ in atmospheric circulation, you can easily solve it. Okay. Then, now, this question. Consider the following statement with respect to photochemical smog. Okay. And here, the statement is, it occurs mostly in moist condition during the presence of fog in the lower atmosphere. When we are talking about smog, there are two types. One is classical smog, which happens during the winter time when we have cool, humid and moist type of climate. The second is photochemical smog. Photochemical smog occurs during warm, dry and sunny season. Okay. So first statement will be incorrect. It is not under moist condition, it is under dry condition. Okay. Second is, it can result in formation of ozone at lower level of troposphere. This is correct. It leads to formation of not just ozone, but other important things also. Like we have peroxyacetyl nitrate, we have also formation of acrolein, we have formation of even this formaldehyde. Okay. All these gases are formed at the lower level due to this photochemical smog. It can cause extensive damage to plant life. Yes, true. A lot of harmful gases are there. Ozone is there, nitrogen oxides are there. Then formaldehyde is there. So of course it is going to have a disastrous impact on plant life. Okay. Sulfur oxides are primarily responsible for formation of photochemical smog. Now, if we have seen the question of 2022, they're asking this thing. Even in the previous years, they have asked this thing, that like for acid rain, they have asked what are the gases which are responsible. Okay. And for acid rain, like carbon oxides and nitrogen oxides and sulfur oxides both are responsible. But in case of a smog, this differs. For the formation of classical smog, sulfur oxides are responsible, whereas for formation of photochemical smog, nitrogen oxides are responsible. Okay. So these two things you should keep in mind, that classical smog, the smog which is formed during the winter season, it is done by simply sulfur oxides, whereas photochemical smog occurs during the sunny, warm and dry season. Okay, means it will mostly be occurring during the summer time, and there nitrogen oxides are responsible. So here two statements are correct, 2 and 3 only. Okay. Then ozone depletion, simple question is there. Ozone depletion over South Pole remains the same throughout the year? No. At any place, ozone depletion is not same throughout the year. In certain areas, in certain time, we have more amount of depletion. Like in case of Antarctic, we have more depletion during the spring season. Okay. So it is not constant, and the Montreal Protocol is responsible for the elimination of ozone depleting substances. See here, one thing. Recently, there has been a report. If you have been going through the newspaper, last week in Indian Express, there was a proper explained report that the ozone depletion which has happened, now it is going to be almost healed. For majority of the tropical regions, it is going to be healed by in the next 20 or 30 years. Okay. And in the case of this polar regions, it is going to be extended for a bit longer. Okay. So what we are seeing, this Montreal Protocol is responsible, and here one more thing is, this has been there in the news for some time, so you should be seeing this. Paint and furniture industry are contributor, that is true. Paint, furniture, refrigeration, conditioning industry, they are all responsible for it. So answer would be 3 only. Okay. Then this is again a simple thing. It is simply about aquatic ecosystem. A higher level of biological oxygen demand indicate ecosystem is free from pollutant. No, higher level of biological oxygen demand means it is more polluted. Okay, So this is also a simple thing. One thing you can keep here in mind, the use of biodegradable detergent can help in restoring and preserving healthy aquatic ecosystem. No, that is incorrect. When you are adding organic waste to any area, then in that case also microorganisms will start working on it, and due to that particular thing, we will see that the area will be further destroyed. Okay, the aquatic ecosystem, it will be further destroyed. Okay, so even the biodegradable detergents are harmful, because when these are added, then microorganisms will become more active, and thus they can cause more harm to the aquatic ecosystem. Okay. Then one common thing, detritivorous organism. See, you have to remember the examples. This is one area from where you are getting multiple questions in environment. Try to remember the examples of various type of organism. Like here we have wood lice, we have termite, we have millipedes. They are detritivorous organism. Protozoa is a simply decomposer. Okay, and viruses are not playing any role there. Viruses, you know that outside the living body, it is not functioning. Okay, so viruses are not there. We have three things: 1, 2, and 5. Okay. Now, one more thing which is asked is about, like last year also, if you have seen 2022, they have asked what types of institutions are made under a particular act. Okay, so here you can see, again the question is about, under the Wildlife Protection Act, what are the institutions which have been formed? National Board for Wildlife, yes. Tiger Conservation Authority, yes. Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, yes. This has been formed under the Water Act, and this is NGT Act. Okay, so the answer here will be 1, 2, and 3 only. Okay, so you should remember that what authorities have been established under a particular act. That is one thing for which UPSC has asked question in the past also, and in the future also there can be similar questions. Okay. Then this is about again a protected area, and I have told you earlier also that we have to find the location. We have to also see the vegetation of those areas. So again here it is about the location and vegetation factor. The only first statement is correct, the second is incorrect. This is lying in the central region where we have arid type of climate. So here the answer will be 1 only. Okay, location, vegetation, flora, fauna, location and vegetation and fauna, and the rivers. That is one thing which you should keep in mind. If you look at the Panna Biosphere Reserve, it has various ancient monuments also. Okay, so just go through this Panna Biosphere Reserve. It has recently been accorded this status of UNESCO recognized Biosphere Reserve. Okay, it has been recognized by UNESCO. Latest edition is there. Okay, right now we have got 12 biosphere reserves in India, which has been recognized by UNESCO. So this is the 12th one. Okay, so you should be aware about this one also. Now, one more thing is there. Right now, cold water corals are gaining prominence because last in 6 months there have been mention of some A-juice anthely corals. A-juice anthely corals in the Bay of Bengal region. Okay, so what is happening? We are having certain cold water corals which are coming to you can say that limelight now. So you can see these things also. Here they can survive. They do not have any symbiotic algae like juice anthely. Okay, they can simply be based on heterotrophic nutrition. They can depend on certain phytoplanktons for their food. So they do not have to be in symbiotic relation. Okay, and they do not require sunlight also, because sunlight is basically required by juice anthely for their food formation. So they do not require, and they can be found across majority of the globe, because now sunlight was a limiting factor for the reef building corals. Now they are not reef building corals, they are simply coral polyps. They do not have this symbiotic relation, so they can be found in multiple types of aquatic ecosystem. Okay, multiple areas of marine ecosystem. Okay, so this is again something which you should keep in mind, because around 400 different types of A-juice anthely corals have been found in this region of Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea in India. Okay. Then, now certain science and related question is there. Like this one is there, the term infrastructure as a service, software as a service. These types of questions, these types of terms are given, and then they ask you what it is related to. Okay. So here it is related to cloud computing, but remember one thing, if there are certain terms like this, like various technology is there which is evolving, and you should be aware about these terms also. They will not ask in detail more often. They will not ask in detail more often, but they can simply ask you about the terms. And then it will be easier thing because terms are easy to remember. Okay. This is one thing which you should keep in mind. This will be the last question for our discussion. Okay. Basically, you know that last year James Webb Space Telescope was there and it has been in quite much limelight. Okay. So Lagrange point is one such thing which is associated with this. Okay. Lagrange point are basically those points at which the gravitational pull of two different objects is roughly equal to the centripetal force which is required by the object to remain in its position. Okay. So here the impact is minimized, and at these Lagrange point, if we are putting certain spacecraft or if we are putting certain observatory, then we don't have to give it too much of energy, and so energy requirement is reduced. The spacecraft or the object or the satellites can be placed or telescopes can be placed without giving them much fuel. Okay. So at the L2 position we have this James Webb telescope, and due to this question was there. Okay. See here, these are the position where gravitational pull of two large masses precisely equals the centripetal force. Correct. Okay. It can be used by a spacecraft to reduce fuel consumption. That is also correct. And then this James Webb telescope is placed at L1 point. No, it is not placed in L1 point. It is placed at L2 point. And why it has been done? So that it can see. Now, when it is at L2 point, see that it is not getting influenced by the sunlight. Okay. And when it is at L2 point, it can see in the darkness of the entire universe and it can get more input. What happens that if we are keeping anything here, then majority of the light will be coming from sun. Okay. At L1 point also majority of the light will be coming from sun, but it is in the darker side, it is in the far away side, and at that position it can see the light coming from the other parts of the entire universe. Okay. So that is a remarkable thing about James Webb telescope. It was there in the news. Now they will not simply just ask about James Webb telescope, they can ask related concepts also. Okay. So that's why this Lagrange point is one thing which you can again see. Okay. Similarly, Navik is also there. You can see that also. It is a simple thing. It is a constellation of 7 satellites, but not all in geostationary. 3 in geostationary and others in geosynchronous. Okay. And the 2 other things are simply correct. Okay. So that will be all for today. Okay. And after this, Talib sir will be coming and he will be discussing certain questions related to polity and other sections, and then you can get the insight that what types of questions are coming from the other sections of polity or IR or current affairs. Okay. So Talib sir will be resuming in a few minutes. Thank you very much. All the best.
We have already been in the session with Jatadhari sir and Kinchuk sir, and they have discussed their part. Myself Talib, and we will discuss polity and current affairs. If you talk about this open test which we had, then we were just going through the results, the marks which you guys have secured, and I was really astonished to see that only some of you were able to secure more than 110. First part. Second part, if you talk about something around cutoff, you would I mean, you guys might have seen that the level of questions were not up to the mark which should be at a level where the cutoff will be less than 80 marks. So, with seeing this question paper and the benefit of sitting at home and giving the test, the cutoff should be somewhere around 100 to 110 marks. So, if you are securing somewhere around 100 and 110 marks, then you are at the safer side. Also, on the other hand, when we are going through the results of the students, we saw some very unique type of system also. Like some of you attempted all the questions, and by attempting all the questions, secured 120 marks. While some of you skipped some question and even though scored around 115 and 218 marks. So when you are appearing in the test, you have to understand that all the questions are not there to attempt. There are certain type of questions which you can easily skip. Attempting all the questions is not at all necessary. In this 100 question, there will always be 10 to 15 questions which you will not be able to do. So don't worry or don't go for attempting all the questions. At first, try to cover the questions which you feel you can do, and then go through the questions where you can eliminate the options. No need to go through the questions which you are simply doing by just closing your eyes and dropping your pen. That is pen drop theory, A, B, C, D and so on. So that should not be the approach behind going through any test. Again, this is the first open test of this year. We will keep on doing this very same thing again and again and again, and we will try to have this open test every month so that we can give you the glimpse of how the questions are being asked in examination and what should be the approach of preparing this with reference to this prelims examination. Along with all these things, we will also show you the standard of the questions which have been asked by UPSC and the standard of questions which we are asking, so that you can see that the preparation which you are going through, this whole phase which you are going through, is it according to the examination's demand or not. So let us start with the questions one by one. I am here to cover polity and current affairs. If you talk about this section, polity and current affairs, you can see that every year in examination around 25 to 30% questions are directly from this section. First part. Second part, if you see the role of current affairs, then this role of current affairs is not at all limited to this polity only. If you see any other section, presently the demand of examination is in such a manner that if you see the role of current affairs, you will see that the topics are being picked from current affairs and they are asking the static portion of these current affairs. So last year there was a question on deputy speaker. If you see the role of deputy speaker, you will see that the question on deputy speaker was mainly asked because there was some news with reference to deputy speaker. In this 17th Lok Sabha, there was no deputy speaker. So just to fill that gap, they asked the question. There can be a question on Law Commission of India. There can be a question on various other bodies. Polity part. Again, if you move to static part, if you move to other sections, you will see that the questions from other sections are also being asked from this very theme. So you have to prepare the static part very clearly, but you have to relate the current affairs from this static part. Not only with reference to polity, but with reference to other subjects also. Let us see the questions one by one. If you start with the question, just see this question number 8. We have merged this polity and current affairs together. We will not go through all the questions. We will try to cover the important questions which we need to decipher here. So just see this question number 8. Which of the statements given below are correct with reference to the Shunya campaign? Just try to focus on this word, Shunya campaign. If you see this statement, this Shunya campaign, I hope you guys know that Shunya means zero in Sanskrit. This is a Sanskrit word, and if you see this whole option, you can simply go through the answer. Just try to read the options. There will be a lot of question in examination where if you read the options clearly, you will automatically jump to the solution. Like see, the primary aim of this campaign is to ensure zero unvaccinated population. Option B, plans to revolutionize the transport sector with a radical and urgent transition to zero emission vehicles. Option C, it aims to achieve zero crime rate in the coming 5 years. Now, all these three options are somewhere related to this concept of Shunya or zero. But if you see the option is B, if you see it at this moment, you will see that government came up with this Shunya campaign plan to revolutionize the transport sector and ensure that in the coming years, we will have this zero emission vehicles. This is the main aim of Shunya campaign. Let's move to the next question. Consider the following statements about the Election Commission of India. Again, a very important body. If you see in the recent past, we have been seeing this news of election, and we have been seeing this news of national parties, state parties, and so on. So there is a question on Election Commission. There is also a question on anti-defection. There is also a question on the national parties. You can expect some type of questions, some sort of question of this very type in the examination also. Like recently, Aam Aadmi Party became a national party. So what are the criteria for being recognized as a national party, and so on. So if you go through this question, consider the following statements about the Election Commission of India. Just try to read the options, you will automatically jump to the answer. The Constitution mandates the Election Commission of India to consist of the election commissioners, of 3 election commissioners. The Constitution mandates the Election Commission of India to consist of 3 election commissioners. The point is, whenever you see the questions of UPSC, especially polity section, you will see that there are a lot of questions, and almost every year there is a question which specifies the constitutional provision. The Constitution mandates, the Constitution specifies, the Constitution classifies, the Constitution defines, and so on. So these types of terms are always important. That is why we say that whenever you are reading anything in polity, either it be current affairs or any other part, try to see its constitutional provision. If there is no constitutional provision, try to see its statutory provision. And if there is no statutory provision, try to go through the other dimension, that is what are the executive provisions or how that structure is in existence. You see the questions and you will see that every time there will be something like the constitution mandates, or the constitution defines, or the constitution specifies, the constitution classifies, and so on. So whenever you are going through anything, just try to see that. If you see, the statement is the constitution mandates the Election Commission of India to consist of 3 election commissioners. There is no such provision with reference to this Election Commission of India. Again, if you see the next option, the election commissioners enjoy veto power to decide any matter. If you see this provision of veto powers, you will see that there is nothing like enjoying the veto power to decide any matter. Had it been any other term, we could have thought for this statement, but here it is specified as any matter, so automatically the statement becomes incorrect. The third option is the Election Commission determines the territorial areas of the electoral constituencies throughout the country. If you talk about the territorial constituencies, you have to understand that it is not the Election Commission of India, it is Delimitation Commission which goes through this provision. So Election Commission of India doesn't decide this, it is Delimitation Commission which decides this whole process. And this Delimitation Commission has been in news in recent past also, so that section also becomes important. If you see this Delimitation Commission was there with reference to Jammu and Kashmir. This Delimitation Commission is there with reference to Assam. And this Delimitation Commission can also be there with the concept of creating new parliament building. So if a new parliament building is being created, there has been this news that we may see increase in number of representatives also. So if we see this increase in number of representatives, we have to understand that how these new representatives will come into structure. First part. Second part, what will be the process for that and which body is responsible for that. And so this concept of Delimitation Commission comes into existence. And that is why we have to focus on this topic of Delimitation Commission very clearly. Just see what are the constitutional provisions associated with this Delimitation Commission. See, we are not here to only give you the explanation of the questions, we just want to give you the glimpse of this whole preparation of the subject also. So you have to understand that when you are going through this Delimitation Commission, when you are going through this question, just try to relate this concept of Delimitation Commission associated with that also. Let's move to the next question. So the answer would be D only, as all these statements given here are incorrect. Again, move to question number 13. White Knight 2 and New Shepherd. Terms sometimes seen in the news are associated with which one of the following. If you talk about this White Knight 2 and New Shepherd, you guys might have heard about Elon Musk, and he has this SpaceX also. I hope you guys know SpaceX. These are all for space tourism. In the same manner, we have this White Knight 2 and New Shepherd also. These are also for space tourism. If you see, then there are 2 primary companies, that is Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin. These 2 are mainly focusing on this space tourism, and this Virgin Galactic has come up with this concept of space. This Virgin Galactic has come up with this concept of Spaceship 2, and if you talk about this Virgin Galactic has come up with this concept of White Knight 2, and this Blue Origin has come up with this concept of New Shepherd. And apart from that, we also have this SpaceX by Elon Musk. So these are some of the companies which is focusing mainly on space tourism. A very important topic with reference to this whole concept of space tourism, which has been in news in the recent past. सर लाइट आ रहा है, रीडिंग नहीं बन रहा है, कुछ कर सकते हैं इसको? ये जैसे यहाँ पे खड़े हैं ना, ये बीच वाला इज नॉट रीडेबल. इधर हो जाए क्या? ये ज़्यादा सही है. ठीक है. Sorry for the inconvenience, let's come back. So, if you see this, with reference to the next question, that is question number 16, which is mainly from international relations or current affairs. If you talk about international relations, it is also mainly current affairs or India's relations with reference to UPSC. With reference to any other thing, this international relations can change, but with reference to UPSC, it is only about India's relations and current affairs. So, SCO has been in news in the recent past. If you talk about this structure of SCO, just see this question. With reference to this Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, consider the following statements. It is a non-governmental organization. Second statement, regional anti-terror structure. RATS is one of its permanent bodies based in Tashkent. If you talk about this structure of RATS, then you have to understand that what are the permanent bodies of SCO. At first, see the first statement. If you talk about the first statement, it is not non-governmental organization, it is mainly intergovernmental organization. On the other hand, if you talk about this RATS, then along with this RATS, this SCO have two permanent bodies, that is first is RATS and the second one is SCO Secretariat, and this whole structure of SCO works on these two. RATS is a very important structure with reference to SCO and with reference to this Asian region. You can see its importance. Also, see the work of SCO which it has done with reference to this recent political changes in Afghanistan also. So, if you see these dimensions, automatically the concept of SCO will become clear with reference to this whole area. Also, if you talk about this SCO being an organization, then it is intergovernmental organization which mainly consists of 6 countries, that is China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. These are the 6 countries which we mainly see in SCO. Let's move to the next question. Which of the statements given, again a question on current affairs, which of the statements given below are correct with reference to the Tihan initiative recently seen in news? If you see this, then both these statements are correct. If you see this concept of Tihan, it is mainly on the basis of this Atmanirbhar Bharat, and it is also focusing on this concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Again, a question on polity. I had specified that we have multiple questions on this issue of election and representation. See this question. With reference to disqualification on grounds of defection, consider the following statements. With reference to disqualification on grounds of defection, consider the following statements. A very interesting question. An independent member incurs disqualification if the member joins any political party. The second statement is a nominated member incurs disqualification if the member joins a political party anytime after being nominated. Now, if you see the Constitution of India, if you see the whole provisions, you will see that we have come up with this structure of 10th schedule of the Constitution. I hope you guys know from which amendment this 10th schedule was added. This has been asked by UPSC various number of times with reference to this 10th schedule of the Constitution and the other concepts. So, if you see this structure of 10th schedule, you will see that it also specifies with reference to this disqualification on the basis of the independent members joining a political party. And if you see this, then an independent member is disqualified if the member joins any political party. On the other hand, if you talk about the nominated independent members, then they have this time gap of 6 months for joining a political party. If they join after 6 months, then only this provision of anti-defection will come into existence. Otherwise, they have this provision of they have this option of joining any political party. So, first statement is correct and the second statement is incorrect. Option would be A only. Again, a question on private members bill. Now, this specific question, that is consider the following statements with reference to private members bill. You have to understand the origin, the concept of this question. The point is, recently we came up with this Uniform Civil Code Bill in Rajya Sabha. So, if you talk about this Uniform Civil Code Bill, you have to understand that how that Uniform Civil Code Bill came into existence. And if you see that concept, then automatically this concept of private members bill will come into existence. That Uniform Civil Code was presented by a member by a member of parliament from Bharatiya Janata Party in Rajya Sabha. But even though it is termed as a private members bill, and from there we can expect a question from this private members bill. We can expect a question on this issue of Uniform Civil Code, but not this Uniform Civil Code bill. And we can expect a question on this private members bill. This is how you have to approach this UPSC and especially this prelims examination. So, if you talk about this, from there we have picked this question. Now, I would also request to people that whenever you are going through this current affairs, you have to understand that whatever you are seeing in news, whatever is coming into news, we have to see that the questions will be asked from that, but the questions will not be asked from the current section, but from the static section. So, if you see this Uniform Civil Code, the question is not being asked on that bill, the question is being asked from this origin of that whole issue, that is private members bill. This is how UPSC also picks the question, and this is what we have to understand. So, if you talk about this private members bill, you have to understand various things. Again, the same concept comes. If you talk about this private members bill, you have to understand that what is the origin of the system of private members bill. Does the Constitution specifies about this private members bill, and what are the provisions associated with this private members bill? At what point? Is it in the Constitution? Is it in this rules of procedure of and conduct of business of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha? Is it at some other point? Is it an executive structure? What is the provision associated with that? We have to understand that also. So, let's see this private members bill. You also need to understand that how many private members bill have been passed till now. Is it a possibility to pass a private members bill? And the other concepts. So, if you see this, and that is why we have given you the complete explanation. In this explanation, you will also find that we provide X factor, and this X factor explanation gives you the additional concept on that topic, from where the information which really makes this whole answer different. Let's just see this question. It is a bill introduced by any member of parliament who is only from the opposition party. So if you see this, any member of parliament who is from opposition party will a bill proposed by any member of parliament who is from opposition party is known as a private member's bill. Is it correct? Obviously no. If you talk about this concept of private member's bill, then any bill which is presented by anyone other than a minister is known as private member's bill. So if anyone other than a minister is proposing any bill in parliament, that will be known as a private member's bill. If the member is from ruling party, then also it will be called as a private member bill. If the member is from opposition party, then also it is called as private member's bill. Just see the differentiation of bills, that is private member's bill and government bill or public bill. So public or government bill means any bill which is proposed by a minister. What is annual financial statement? Do you think annual financial statement is a government bill or a private bill? Anybody, any idea? Let's see the second statement. The period of notice for introduction of such a bill is 1 month. This statement is correct. If you talk about this private bill, then you need to have notice of 1 month. On the other hand, if it is about public bill, the notice should be of 1 week at least. See the third statement. The Constitution of India specifies that there is no veto power in the hands of President with reference to such a bill. Again, if you talk about this Constitution of India, then you have to understand that does the Constitution mentions about private member's bill, and automatically you will come to the answer. So if you see this question, it will give you the glimpse of this whole section, that is what is the veto power. You have been seeing, we have been seeing that on a regular basis, questions are being asked from this veto power of the president also. Now, see the demand of the question. It is talking about incorrect statement. So, statement 1 is incorrect and statement 3 is incorrect. You will automatically jump to the answer. But if you see this whole issue of private members bill, a very important topic with reference to prelims examination, you can see that there are some other dimensions associated with this also. Just go through the bills which has been passed through this process. Like, okay, we don't have its explanation. Let's move to the next question. That is, which of the options given below correctly defines the term pop fame recently seen in news? If you see this, just try to read the options and you will jump to the answer again. It relates to the recently developed rocket by SpaceX. It is a fuel developed by US scientists from a bacterium. It is a recently discovered green cracker which blasts with a great sound. It is an artificial, nice option, a very interesting option, option C. It is an artificial method of growing basic agriculture commodities by culturing bacteria. The answer is B, that is US scientists have developed this fuel from a bacterium, and if you go through this in details, you will see that it comes up with more energy than even the rocket fuels in use today. So it can be a very important concept in the near future. Again, see the next question on polity. Consider the following statements. The writ petition for the violation of fundamental rights can be filed either in the High Court or in the Supreme Court. So if you see this, we have Article 32 of Indian Constitution and we have Article 226 of Indian Constitution, which gives you this writ making power in the hands of the Supreme Court and the High Courts. So the statement is correct. Again, if you move to the next statement, a writ of habeas corpus cannot be filed when the person or authority against whom the writ of habeas corpus is filed is not within the territorial jurisdiction of the court. Obviously, when the person is not in the territorial jurisdiction of the court, then we cannot file this habeas corpus. Not only this, if you see this habeas corpus, you also need to see that what other restrictions are there with reference to this habeas corpus, and what are the provisions associated with this habeas corpus. See, a very basic mistake which we all do, which you all do at this preparation stage is that when you are preparing for the examination, you go through the questions and we think that just going through the question is sufficient. No, that is not the sufficient point. You have to understand the dimensions of this question. So if you went through the question today, you attempted whatever number of questions you attempted, that doesn't matter for me. If there were 50 questions which were incorrect and you skipped and incorrect. So you have to analyze these questions very clearly so that next time if the question comes from these topics, you should be able to go through these questions properly. And if you follow this pattern of preparation, you will automatically see that with the passage of time, you will automatically be able to do more concepts associated with that. And when you go through 100 questions, it may take 3 hours or 4 hours for analyzing those questions. But unless and until you have gone through the analyzation of those questions, that will not be important for you. Let's see the next statement. The writ of mandamus cannot be issued against the President of India. Yes, it cannot be issued against the President of India. We have this Article 361 of Indian Constitution, which gives the provisions associated with this. Again, statement 4, the writ of quo warranto can be issued against the chief minister of a state for non-performance of his constitutional duties. This statement 4 is incorrect. This writ of quo warranto cannot be issued against the chief minister or the ministers. There are certain points with reference to this which we need to understand very clearly. So, if you talk about this whole issue, we have to understand that this writ of quo warranto simply means that it is issued against the authorities holding the public office, but it cannot be issued against some of the structure like the chief minister or the prime minister and the ministers and all. Now, if you see this explanation of this question, you will automatically see that all other concepts of that question is covered. So, even if the statement, even if you made it as correct, just try to read the explanation, and you will see that you automatically come up with additional information associated with that. And that should be the approach of covering this whole question. So, just attempting the questions is not the solution. You have to understand that after attempting the questions, you also need to see the dimensions of the questions and the dimensions of the explanation. Then only that topic is done. So, there can be some instance where a question is asked and you knew that information of that topic only. But if you go through this additional information on that topic, then automatically that topic becomes complete. And if you are going through 100 questions, then it is not only about 100 questions, but it is also about 100 topics. So, it may take 2 hours or 3 hours to analyze this whole paper, but unless and until you have analyzed, you will not be able to go through the benefits of going through that paper. Let's move to the next question. Henipa virus. Langia henipa virus, a very important type of virus. Just read the statement, then we will come to the conclusion. This virus is transmitted from animals to humans. Yes, the statement is correct. It was first detected in the southern part of Kerala in India. Oh, obviously, no. Whenever we talk about viruses, just name China. It's better to blame China than to blame India. So it also came up from China only. The third statement is it belongs to the same family as the Nipah virus. Yeah, it's correct. Nipah viruses are classified as biosafety level 1 pathogens. No, they are not classified as biosafety level 1 pathogens. They are classified as biosafety level 4 pathogens. So, if you see, the answer would be 1 and 3. But the point is, you have to understand this question also and the importance of this question also. In the recent 3, 4, 5 years, we have been seeing the importance of viruses with reference to UPSC examination. And if you talk about the viruses, we have to see the dimensions of associated with that also. So, when you talk about this Langia henipa virus, we have to understand that how this is transmitted from to the humans. Is it from the animals? Or if it is in animals, then how it is transmitted in animals also. So, when you are talking about this question, we have to see the complete explanation of this question. You may be able to do this question correctly, but in the next time, there can be some other information. And here in explanation, along with this X factor, we come through that only. So, if you see this X factor of this explanation, just see this, the virus has been predominantly found in shrews, which may be its natural host. So, there can be a question like this also. That is why we have given you this whole explanation along with this X factor. Let's move to the next question. With reference to Law Commission of India, consider the following statements. Again, a very important question. Why important? Because the term of the 21st Law Commission ended in 2018. And presently, in the last 1, 2 months, 3 months, I think 3 months back, we came up with the chairman of 22nd Law Commission. So, there was almost a gap of somewhere around 4.5 years with reference to this 22nd Law Commission. This makes this whole structure important. But when we talk about this structure of Law Commission, we have to understand that is Law Commission a constitutional body, or is it a statutory body, or is it a executive body? Which type of body do we have as Law Commission of India? So, if you talk about this structure of Law Commission of India, you will automatically see that this Law Commission of India, if you go through this concept of Law Commission of India, then we have to understand that this whole structure of Law Commission of India is not only about this being a statutory or constitutional or executive body. There are much more information associated with that. Just see this. It is a statutory advisory body with a fixed composition. It is a statutory advisory body with a fixed composition. If you talk about this Law Commission of India is not a statutory body, but an executive body. Had it been statutory body, we could not have seen such issue with reference to this Law Commission of India. Again, see the next statement. not only this, if you see this, it is a statutory body with a fixed composition. The composition is also not fixed. See the second statement. So, statement 1 is incorrect. It identifies laws which are no longer needed or relevant and repeals such law. So, see the statement very clearly. It identifies laws which are no longer needed or relevant. Yes, this is correct. It identifies laws which are no longer needed or relevant. But if you move forward, it talks about and repeals such law. The Law Commission of India doesn't have the authority to repeal the laws. It only identifies the laws and recommends it to the parliament, to the executives, and then the executives take action on that. It is not the Law Commission of India which will repeal these laws. So the statement also becomes incorrect. The third statement is its recommendations are not binding on the government. And in the second statement, you will automatically come up with the third statement also. So the statement would be 3 only. If you talk about this Law Commission of India, then we have to understand this history of this Law Commission of India also. There can be a question from this history of Law Commission of India. And when we talk about this history of Law Commission of India, then automatically this 1834 comes into existence, when we saw the first Law Commission under the chairmanship of Macaulay. And from there, we have been seeing that there were multiple law commissions in the 19th century by the Britishers. When India became independent, then from 1955, the first law commission came into existence under the chairmanship of M.C. Settleward. And from there onwards, we have been seeing this law commission 21 more times. This whole structure of 22nd law commission was very much in news and in doubts also. And if you see this 21st law commission, which is being headed by Ritu Raj Avasthi, the Chief Justice, then you will see, you can easily understand the importance that whenever we talk about this Law Commission of India, then this Law Commission of India specifies about the laws which can be repealed, about the laws which are not relevant, and the other things associated with that. So if you talk about the functions of the Law Commission of India, there are primarily 5 functions of this Law Commission of India. That is, identifying the laws which are no longer needed or relevant and can be immediately repealed. Again, if you see, then it also examines the laws from the point of view of DPSP and suggests the government what to do, and which DPSPs are which DPSPs to be implemented and how that process should be done. It also comes up with this whole structure of considering and conveying the matter of this law and justice to the so this structure of Law Commission automatically becomes important. I hope you guys can see. So the point is, this is not only about going through the question of this Law Commission. We have to understand the explanation of this Law Commission also, and we have to see the dimensions of this Law Commission also. There can be a question on this Law Commission with reference to this evolution, that is either it be Macaulay's or the constitutional provisions which led to have this executive executives create this Law Commission, that is Article 372. What does Article 372 specifies? Obviously, this Law Commission of India is an executive body, but what does Article 372 specifies, and what are the functions of this Law Commission of India? Not only this, just see the components of this 22nd Law Commission also. Just go through the reports of some of the important reports of Law Commission of India. Let's come back to this question number 36, which is mainly about this G20. So, consider the following statements with reference to G20. If you talk about G20, you have to understand the importance of G20 in the recent past. That is, just move to Delhi and you can see the importance of G20. If you see this structure of G20, you have to understand some more terms which you will not find here, but this is what we have to understand. Just go through this troika also. Now, see the statement. It was constituted in response to the subprime crisis of the 21st century. The statement is obviously incorrect. It was not due to subprime crisis of 21st century. It was mainly due to subprime crisis of Asian nations in 1999. And the second and third statements are correct. That is, it focuses on health, agriculture, climate change, as well as anti-corruption. Yeah, it's correct. It represents the majority of the global GDP, global trade and pollution. Obviously, because 19 countries and European Union are a part of this, so it will automatically come up with this structure. And you can see this in expansion also, that G20 members represent around 85% of the global GDP, over 75% of the global trade, and about 2/3 of the world population. So you can come up with the answer here also. Let's see the next question, that is, which of the following are compulsory provisions of the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act 1929? So if you talk about this 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act 1929, 92, you have to understand this structure very clearly, that in the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, there are two types of provisions. That is, we have some compulsory provisions, which you will see in every state, and we have some voluntary provisions, which is done on the basis of state legislature. A very important topic, because from here onwards we have come up with this concept of right to recall also. You might have seen that this issue of right to recall was in news in the recent past, especially from Haryana. So this right to recall is from voluntary provisions. Now just see the question again. Making panchayat an autonomous body, organization of gram sabha in village or group of villages, granting financial powers to the panchayats. If you see, then only second one is about this compulsory provisions of the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act 1992. If you see this, the other provisions, those are mainly the voluntary provisions. That is, state legislature makes laws on the basis of the provisions. So, if you see, the statement would be, the answer would be 2 only. But the point is, if you are going through this, just go through this term, that does the Constitution of India defines this Gram Sabha? If it defines, where it defines this Gram Sabha? This is how you have to approach the questions. This is how you have to analyze the questions. Then only you will be able to do all the dimensions of these questions. With respect to diet and biomarker survey, DABS1, which of the following is incorrect? A very simple question. The answer would be B only. That is, it is launched as a pilot project covering only the nutrition level of the eastern states of India. It is not like that. If you see, it covers the whole structure of India, that is all the 28 states and 8 union territories. So that statement is incorrect. Now the point is, whenever you are reading current affairs, try to mark these types of questions. Try to see that who has launched that structure and what is the domain of that, what is the main aim of that program. You will automatically jump to the answers. Again, see a very interesting question. Consider the following statements. The Constitution of India provides for equality before law and equal protection of law. Next statement. The concept of equality before law is absolute in nature. It is being asked in examination various number of times also, that what is this concept of equality before law, and does it is it absolute? Always remember that no concept in India is absolute. We have this absolute provision and qualified provision. This equality before law can also be understood here, that just go through this article 361 of Indian Constitution. You will automatically understand that is it absolute or not. This article This article 361 specifies about this powers of the president with reference to this equality before law. So this second statement is incorrect. See the third statement, equal protection of law means that all persons in similar circumstances shall be given the same rights and liabilities. Obviously, and this from here onwards various concepts in India comes into existence. This article 14 of Indian Constitution specifies about this concept of equality before law and equal protection of law. See the fourth statement, that is rule of law forms the basis of Indian Constitution. Obviously, it is the rule of law which forms the base of Indian Constitution. Question number 45. Consider the following statements about electoral bond. An NRI can contribute to electoral bonds. An NRI can contribute to electoral bonds. Yes, the statement is correct. Statement 2. Comptroller and Auditor General of India have the authority to audit electoral bonds funded to different political parties. No, it is not like that. It is the it is audited by internally by the party only, party team only, and not by the CAG. CAG doesn't have that much time. However, it can do it at some circumstances, but it is not audited by CAG. And the third statement is any political party is eligible for funding under the electoral bond. No, it is not like any political party is funded with reference to that. Only those political parties which have secured at least 1% of the votes are eligible for that, and that should also be registered under Section 29A of RPA 1951. Only those parties are eligible for getting this electoral bonds. Question number 46. Consider the following statements. Constitution provides a set of basic rules that allows for minimal coordination amongst the members of a society. Yeah, this is correct. The second statement, it is necessary that a country is democratic if the country is holding regular elections and has a constitution. A very good question. But you have to understand that It is not necessary that every country which is conducting elections will be democratic also, and it is not necessary that even if the elections are being conducted regularly, then also it is not unnecessary that the country is democratic along with having the constitution. There are various other dimensions which we need to understand with reference to being democratic. So the concept is every democratic country or every country with a constitution is not necessarily democratic. On the other hand, every democratic country will have a constitution. Also, every election cannot be election for democracy, election in democracy. However, in democracy today, we need to have elections also. Now, let me specify this concept again. If you talk about this structure of democracy and election, you have to understand that every democratic country will have elections. On the other hand, it is not necessary that every election is democratic. Also, if you talk about this ratio, then you have to understand that every democratic country will have a constitution, but it is not necessary that every constitution is democratic. Just see the data of the whole countries and see that how many countries are democratic. And on the other hand, just see that how many countries have constitution. Even North Korea also have a constitution, and North Korea also holds election. So is it democratic? Obviously no. So this makes the statement 2 incorrect. Again, if you move to statement 3, that is the Constitution of India was not subject to referendum, this statement is also correct. If you see this Constitution of India, you have to understand that the Constitution of India was not subject to referendum, but on the other hand, the Constitution of India, I mean, if you see the draft constitution, then the first draft was put open to public suggestions, public opinions. However, it was not referendum, but it was put open to public suggestions. So the statement is correct that it was not subject to referendum, but we have to understand that for 8 months, it was open for the public suggestions, and everyone was allowed to suggest whatever changes they wanted to have. So the answer would be C only. Again, a very important question, the concept of district judge. If you see this subordinate judiciary or this trial court has been in news in the recent past. Just see what happened in Madhya Pradesh recently. Madhya Pradesh High Court specified that there is no concept like the subordinate courts. It should be trial courts, and we should not use these feudal terms with reference to judiciary. And we should end this judicial feudalism as soon as possible. So from there onwards, we took this question of this structure of subordinate judiciary. So you have to understand that does the Constitution of India mentions anywhere in the Constitution this term subordinate judiciary? Just go through Article 236, 237, 235 and 234, 233. You will automatically understand all the concepts associated with this subordinate judiciary. Again, just read the question. With reference to the district judge in India, consider the following statements. District judges are appointed by governor of the concerned state in consultation with the State Public Service Commission. No, it is not. It is not. District judges are appointed by the governor of the concerned state in consultation with State Public Service Commission. It is not for this State Public Service Commission, but it is for the High Court of that state. So this makes the statement 1 incorrect. Just see the second statement. A very simple, very bookish question, that is, a person to be appointed as district judge should have been an advocate for at least 5 years. If you talk about this, it is not 5 years, but it should be 7 years. So a very bookish question, which can easily be sorted out. But when you go through this question, just try to see this Article 233 of Indian Constitution, and then only you will be able to go through this question every time when it comes into the examination. Just go through this Article 233 of Indian Constitution. Just go through Article 236 of Indian Constitution, and just go through the recent news which we saw with reference to this Madhya Pradesh High Court. And if you see these dimensions, that is Article 233, Article 236 and the recent judgment, then this topic will automatically be done for you. This term feudal judicial feudalism is very important, and there can be a question from here also. Term VB10 often seen in news refers to a biomarker. If you see this term VB10, then it was in news recently, and this if you see this VB10, then it is a new blood biomarker for differential diagnosis and recovery of and monitoring of acute viral and bacterial infections. So if you see, whenever you have, I mean, not only this, if you see the accuracy of VB10, then it indicated whether a given blood sample had a bacterial or viral infection across different bacteria and viruses, and that is why this became very much, this topic or this news about VB10 becomes very much important with reference to examination. Consider the following statements about national flag of India. As per the recent amendment of the Flag Code of India, the government has allowed the flag to be flown at night. Yeah, recently we had this amendment. Statement 2. The Parliament of India in 1951 adopted the present flag as the national flag of India. It was not the Parliament of India which adopted the national flag, and it was mainly the Constituent Assembly. However, this Constituent Assembly was also the first Parliament of India, but it was not the Parliament in 1951. It was adopted way back before the making of the Constitution. Which of the following is correct about the Fit for 55 package? It is related to promoting a healthy lifestyle in light of increasing life expectancy. Second statement, it is a set of proposals to revise and update European Union legislation relating to theme of the packages. Statement 2 is correct. That is, it is related to European Union legislation relating to theme of the package. It mainly focuses on the structure, that how the packaging should be done. It is not with reference to this being fit at the age of 55. Next question. Parliamentary standing committees. See, if you talk about these questions on polity, you will see that every year you will find multiple questions in prelims examination with reference to this process of law making. So, here also we have gone through the same pattern, and we have given multiple dimensions with reference to this questions on polity also. Let's see this. Consider the following statements about parliamentary standing committees. If you talk about this, then these are permanent in nature, which is constituted by the parliament. So the statement 1 is correct. If you see statement 2, you just go through this Krishna Menon committee and its recommendation 1964, you will automatically understand this whole structure of parliamentary standing committees. The third statement is incorrect because it is not consulted with reference to the appointment of directors of public sector undertakings. So first and second statement is correct, while the third statement is incorrect. Again a question, consider the following of polity. Consider the following features of the Indian Constitution. If you see this question, just try to understand this question very clearly. You will automatically jump to the answer. But just see, there has been a question from historical background of Indian Constitution in the recent past almost every year. That is this section of historical background. If you see this, then primarily questions are being asked from 1919, 1935 and making of the Constitution. So if you see this structure of 1919, 1935 and making of the Constitution, just see how the questions are being asked. There are multiple dimensions of asking the questions. There can be a question where they will give you some point and say that from where this has been taken, like something is mentioned in the Constitution of India, from where it has been taken. On the other hand, there can be a question with reference to this Government of India Act 1935, and they will say that where in the Indian Constitution there it has been mentioned. There can also be a question on the provisions of this Government of India Act 1919 and 1935. Like almost every year we have been seeing this question on diarchy and this 1919 and 1935. Just see this question. Here we have specified some of the provisions of the Constitution which we have in India today, and we have asked that which among the following have been taken from this Government of India Act 1935. That is, which among the following can be cited as a source for Government of India Act 1935. So if you see Office of Governor, yes. Federal schemes, obviously yes. 7th Schedule of Indian Constitution and 7th Schedule of Government of India Act 1935. Public Service Commission, obviously yes. Administrative details, obviously yes. Emergency province, obviously yes. So all these provinces have been taken somewhere from the Government of India Act 1935. Do you know, majority of the province of Indian Constitution has been taken from this Government of India Act 1935. But we have to understand some concepts associated with that also. That is, if you see this government, if we have taken majority of the provisions from Government of India Act 1935, then do you think or do you come up with this question that what was the need for having the Constitution of India? If majority of the provisions have been taken from this Government of India Act 1935, then India could have easily skipped that. And in India could have easily skipped the Constitution, skipped this whole process of making of the Constitution, and they could have easily adopted this Government of India Act 1935 itself. But what was the reason with some amendments? So what was the reason that India came through this making of the Constitution completely? Anybody, any idea? If you see this whole structure, you have to understand that this Government of India Act 1935 was not adopted by India. It was enforced on India. However, this Constitution of India is adopted by India. Let's see the next question. With reference to the position of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, again a very important question with reference to this process of lawmaking, and you will see that almost every year we have, almost every alternate year, we have been seeing a question from this very dimension. That is, with reference to the position of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, consider the following statements. That is, comparison of powers of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. If you see this question, you will see that even in last year's prelims examination also, there was a question on this composition of comparison of powers of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. It was a question on special powers of Lok Sabha. So, almost every alternate year we have been seeing a question on this comparison of powers of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Just try to read this question and you will automatically understand the whole concept. With reference to the position of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, consider the following statements. With reference to a constitutional amendment, both the houses have equal powers. Yeah, it's correct. A resolution for the discontinuance of the national emergency can be passed by both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Incorrect. If you talk about this resolution for the discontinuance of national emergency, you have to understand that it is a special power of Lok Sabha and not Rajya Sabha. So, when you talk about these powers of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, you have to understand three different dimensions. That is, when Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha are equal, when Lok Sabha is more powerful than Rajya Sabha, and when Rajya Sabha is more powerful than Lok Sabha. So, if you see this whole provision into these three dimensions, that is, Lok Sabha is equal to Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha being more powerful than Rajya Sabha, and Rajya Sabha being more powerful than Lok Sabha, you will automatically see that you can easily jump to one question from UPSC. Just see the third statement. Only Rajya Sabha can authorize the parliament to make a law on subject mentioned in the state list under Article 249. If you talk about this Rajya Sabha, you have to understand that there are 4 provisions mentioned in the constitution which specifies the special powers of Rajya Sabha. And if you talk about this, we have Article 249 of Indian Constitution, we have Article 312 of Indian Constitution, we have Article 67 Clause B of Indian Constitution, and we have this emergency provisions. So, whenever it is about making any law on this state list, then under Article 249 of Indian Constitution, Rajya Sabha can authorize the parliament to make the laws. Whenever we have to create any new all India services, it is the Rajya Sabha which authorizes the parliament to create that service. If you talk about this removal of the Vice President of India, then the process of removal of Vice President of India can only be initiated in Rajya Sabha and not Lok Sabha. Also, in Rajya Sabha, we need to have effective majority. On the other hand, in Lok Sabha, we need to have simple majority only. I hope you guys know this effective and simple majority. And the next thing is about emergency provisions. Whenever the parliament is notified for emergency, and in the meantime, if the Lok Sabha is dissolved or dissolution of Lok Sabha takes place, then in that case, Rajya Sabha can, if it is approved by Rajya Sabha, then it will be in effect. So, in these in these 4 dimensions, the Rajya Sabha is more powerful than the Lok Sabha. In the same manner, we have the points where you will see that the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha are equal, and the Lok Sabha is more powerful than the Rajya Sabha. So, in the case of this discontinuance of the national emergency, the Lok Sabha is more powerful than the Rajya Sabha. Consider the following statements with respect to the collegium system. Again, a question, topic which has been in news in the recent past, so it becomes very much important for us. Article 124 of Indian Constitution, that is appointment of judges. So, just read this. As per Article 124 of Indian Constitution, every judge of the Supreme Court shall be appointed by the President after the consultation with a collegium of 4 senior-most judges. So, we have to understand that, does this term collegium mention in the Constitution of India? Obviously no. So, how will this concept of 4 senior-most judges come into existence? So, the Constitution of India at no point defines this collegium, at no point specifies about this collegium. It is a process which has come into existence by the judiciary itself. You might have seen this first judge's case, that is SP Gupta versus Union of India, or second judge's case, that is Advocates on Record versus Union of India, or the third judge's case, Presidential Reference, or the fourth judge's case, that is associated with NJSC. So, if you see these things, then from there onwards, this concept of this appointment of judges came into existence. Now, my point is, or we have been trying to explain that very same thing again and again, that why we came up with this question. We mainly came up with this question because this question has been in news, but the question is not with reference to current affairs, and the question is from the static portion. So, this is how you have to approach this examination also. Just see the next question. Currently, the collegium system applies only with respect to the appointment of judges, but not their transfer. It is not like that. Either it be the appointment or transfer, it is done by the collegium system. Again, a question on current affairs. Which of the following is the objective of PM Devin scheme? If you talk about this, then it is a scheme which focuses on infrastructural development in northeastern states of India. A very important concept. Whenever you see something which is especially dedicated to any certain area, then that becomes very much important for us. A question on governance. So when you talk about this polity, we have been assuming that the concept of only polity is important with reference to this prelims. But there are certain basic concepts of governance also that we need to understand. And here we come up with the same with a question of that very type. If you see this question, the central secretariat comprises all the ministries and departments of the central government. Yeah, this is correct. When we talk about this central secretariat, it consists of all the ministries and departments. Ministries includes all the ministries, that is either be cabinet ministers, or it be deputy ministers, or it be state ministers. It consists of all these things, all these ministers, and their departments also. So this is the concept of central secretariat. If you talk about this concept of central secretariat, you also need to understand some additional concepts associated with this. Like if you talk about the central secretariat, then there can be certain ministries without any departments. So it is not necessary that every ministry will have a department. There can be some ministry without department. There can also be some departments without ministry. Just try to understand this concept and try to see the examples that which are the ministries which are without the departments, which are the departments without any ministry. Anybody, any idea? Just let me know. See the second statement. The Constitution of India authorizes the President of India to make rules for more convenient transaction of business of the central government. Just go through Article 77 of Indian Constitution and you will automatically understand the provisions associated with this. Article 77 of Indian Constitution specifies about this the Constitution of India to authorize the Article 77 of Indian Constitution specifies that what are the powers in the hands of the President with reference to the functioning of the Parliament. So when you see this, both the statements are correct, that is both 1 and 2. A question on current affairs, or we can say economy also. With reference to Indian economy, recently in news, the term co-lending is most closely related to coming together of multiple lenders to fund a startup in order to diversify inherent risk, coming together of multiple international organizations to fund recovery of a country in distress, coming together of banks and NBFC to improve the credit flow to the unserved and undeserved segments of the economy. The answer would be C only. This co-lending is a term which is related to this coming together of banks and NBFCs to improve the credit flow to the unserved and undeserved sections of the economy. Again, a very interesting question. Just try to see the importance of this question. Which of the following are federal features of Indian Constitution? When you talk about this Constitution of India, we all know that the term federation or federal or federalism is nowhere mentioned in the Constitution of India, even though India is known as a federal country. What is the reason behind that? So when you talk about this federalism, there are some basic concepts which we need to understand, and from those basic concepts, we only understand that a country is federal or not. Concepts like written and codified constitution, concepts like distribution of power, concepts like authority of court and supremacy of the constitution and independence of judiciary, concepts like rigid constitution. So these are some of the provisions which makes a country federal. If you see these provisions, you will see that India comes up with all these provisions. That is why we call India as a federal country. But apart from being federal, there are various concepts in India which shows that it is not federal, or it has this quasi-federal structure, or it has this federation with centralizing tendency, or roots of this federalism is unitary and so on. And this question is mainly about that only. Which of the following are the features, federal features of the Indian Constitution? Now the point is, if you see this, then independent judiciary is a federal feature. But on the other hand, if you talk about this concept of integrated judiciary, this concept of integrated judiciary is not a feature of federal provisions. That is why this statement becomes incorrect. This whole statement, that is independent and integrated judiciary, is incorrect. Had it been only independent judiciary, then it would have been a provision of federalism. But if you see this independent and integrated judiciary, this is not a provision of federalism. This is mainly a provision with reference to unitary constitution. That is, unitary constitution comes up with this integrated judiciary. Just see the Constitution of USA and you will automatically understand the concept associated with this. If you see this Constitution of USA, you will see that in the Constitution of USA, we have this a different court with reference to federal cases. But in India, this structure of Supreme Court goes through this whole structure. That is, if you see the Supreme Court is also the final court of appeal, and this Supreme Court is also, if you see this structure, then the Supreme Court at the top level is the final court of appeal for individuals also, or individual cases also. Along with this, the Supreme Court is also the federal court. So if you see this whole structure of Supreme Court, you will see that in India we have independent and integrated judiciary. On the other hand, if you go through this structure with reference to the federal countries, you will see that there they have independent judiciary and not integrated judiciary. So there will be a different federal court, but in India we have not, we don't see this provision. That is why this statement is incorrect. See the second statement, that is written in codified constitution, written or codified constitution. Yeah, it's correct. Distribution of power, it is also correct. Autonomous level of government which is directly responsible to the people, it is also correct. So the answer would be 2, 3 and 4 only. But when you are going through this question, now the point is just going through the solution of this question is not sufficient. You have to understand that what are the provisions with reference to federalism, how we call a country federal. Again, we have to see that how we call a country unitary. And we have to see that what are the provisions in India which makes it federal or which makes it unitary. Then only we can jump to the solution of this question. So just solving this question is not the solution. Go through this dimension of going through the explanation of the questions. Then only you will be able to understand this question in the next examinations also. So here he saw a question on this federalism. On the other hand, you can see some more questions associated with this federalism. But when you cover it with this dimension, then only you will be able to cover it in every examination. A question on current affairs. Which of the following organizations publishes the World Investment Report? It is UNCTAD. And if you talk about this UNCTAD, just see the improvement in the rank of India with reference to this recent report of recent World Investment Report published by UNCTAD. India improved one position and was ranked 7th in. If you see this, then according to UNCTAD World Investment Report, India has improved one position to 7th rank among the top 20 host economies for inflow of foreign direct investments in 2021. So this makes this concept, this topic very much important. Whenever you are seeing that if at any point you are seeing that the rank of India is improving or India is very low, those points, those reports becomes important. Again, see the reports which is impacting the government, that report becomes important. Again, the reports published by RBI and other such other organizations becomes important. See the next question. With reference to a political party, consider the following statements, following conditions. Again, a question on this recognition of national party and state parties. If you see this national party was in news after this Gujarat election when Aam Aadmi Party tweeted that it is now the 9th national party in India. 9th national party in India. Just see that how many national parties were there in this 17th Lok Sabha. Where was it 8 or was it 7 or was it 9? Let's move to this question. So with reference to a political party, consider the following conditions. A political party, the framing of this question is somewhat different. With reference to a political, however, the question is very much simple. It's a very bookish question, but just framing of the question is somewhat different. With reference to a political party, consider the following statements, conditions. A political party wins 2% of seats in the Lok Sabha at a general elections, and these candidates are elected from a single state. Now, just see this line of single state. Just see how the group or how the people who are preparing this question is trying to give some point through which you will automatically do a mistake. Second statement, a political party is recognized as a state party in 3 or more states. Again, see this. A political party secures 6% of valid votes polled in any 4 or more states at a general election to the Lok Sabha or to the Legislative Assembly, and in addition it wins 4 seats in the Lok Sabha from any state or states. Third condition. Now see the question. A political party is recognized as a national party by Election Commission of India if it fulfills which of the above conditions? So if you see this whole provision, you will see that this first condition is incorrect, this second condition is incorrect. Now, why we see that the first condition is incorrect? Because it is not the single state, it should be 3 states. On the other hand, if you see the second statement, then it should not be 3 or more states, it should be 4 or more states. While the third statement or third condition is correct, that is why the answer would be C only. With reference to the evolution of civil services in India, a very important question. Now see why this question is important, because 2022 marked 100 years of examination being held in India. This, if you talk about this civil services examination, you have to understand this evolution of this whole civil services examination. That is, if you see this civil services examination, you have to understand that how this civil services examination originated in India. When the Britishers came to when the Britishers came to India, just one sec. If you see this, then you have to understand this evolution of this whole civil services examination in India. If you see, you have to understand that when Britishers came to India, they came up with this services also, and just with the passage of time, they started revolutionizing the whole concept. Through this Charter Act of 1833, they tried to have this open competition for civil services. Section 87 of the Act specified about open competition of civil services, but due to rejection from Court of Directors, it never came into existence. But finally, through this 1853 and after that, Macaulay Committee's recommendation from 1855, this open competition for civil services examination started. However, it took 9 years for first Indian to be a civil servant. That is in 1864, Satyendranath Tagore, brother of Rabindranath Tagore, became the first Indian civil servant. So the first statement, if you see this whole is now let's come back to the questions. From 1922 onwards, the Indian Civil Service Examination began to be held in India along with London. Yeah, this was demanded way back from India, but it was only in 1922 that this examination started being held in India, first in Allahabad and then in Delhi. However, at this time, this examination was also being held in London also. So this examination also started being held from London and not Delhi. Sorry, from Allahabad and not Delhi. First, it was held in Allahabad in India. I hope you guys can now understand that why do we call this Allahabad a big center for civil services preparation. Just ask your grandparents that where to go for UPSC. They will at first recommend Allahabad because of this very concept. Just see the second statement. The concept of merit-based modern civil services was introduced after Indian Council Act 1861. It was not this Indian Council Act 1861. It was merely this Charter Act of 1853. After that, this Macaulay Committee recommendation, and from 1855, this examination became merit-based, that is interest-based. However, the syllabus of the examination was completely tilted towards Britishers. It was almost impossible for Indians to crack this examination. The age of qualification was maximum age of 23 years. In India, people used to ask their parents at the age of 23 that where is food? Obviously, that should be in kitchen, but they ask the parents. This is the age with reference to Indians. However, there are West Indians who did various things at this short age also. And one of them was Satyendranath Tagore. However, it took a long year, almost 9 years for first Indian to compete into that. So, the second statement is incorrect. Third statement, Hutchinson Commission recommended the reorganization of the services on a new pattern and divided the services into multiple groups. Yes, this this Hutchinson Commission divided these services into multiple groupings, and after that the process went on. After that, we came up with this Islington Commission. Islington Commission also recommended that 1/4 of the seats should be reserved for Indians. Then we came up with this Montfort reforms, which specified that 1/3 seats should be reserved for Indians, and then finally we came up with this Lee Commission, which specified that 40% of the seats should be reserved for Indians. Some more questions on current affairs. So, which of the following is correct about de-dollarization? The answer is B, that is, it describes a move away from the current world order to one where nations sell their US treasuries to hold reserves in other currencies or gold. So, this against going, I mean, you can simply understand this question, a very simple question, de-dollarization, and if you see the options, you will automatically jump to the answer. Shrestha scheme. Again, one-liner question. If you see this current affairs, you will see that there will be some sort of question from this very type, but this is more related to this system. This is more related to certain issues which we see in India even today. Just see this C option: to provide equality education and opportunities for even the poorest scheduled caste students as per the constitutional mandate. That is why this topic becomes important. Again, a news on current affairs. However, it is more towards some other dimensions also. So this Vorak technique is mainly a statistical technique to measure the cyclone's convective cloud pattern. I hope you guys might have covered this in geography by Kinchuk sir. If you see this again, which of the following countries does not share a border with Black Sea? I hope it has also been covered in geography. If you see this, you can understand this with the map of Black Sea, and you can see which countries do not border. If you see the options, Russia is there. Let us just see the options. So, Russia, Ukraine, Bulgaria, Azerbaijan. So Russia is there, Bulgaria is also there. There is no Azerbaijan. And what was the other option? Ukraine. So I mean, Russia and Ukraine, it has been in news in the recent past. I hope you guys know. So Ukraine is there, Russia is there, Bulgaria is there. Obviously, it will be Azerbaijan. I hope you guys have covered this in geography. So this is all we have with reference to this. We will keep on giving you these open tests on a regular basis, and we will also try to make sure that you guys have maximum benefits of having these open tests. Not only this, we will try to also make this more interactive. If there's any question, you guys can ask the questions also. Our team will regularly contact you people also regarding all the issues associated with this and all the whatever you need with reference to the results and with reference to this mentorship program. If there's anything, please let me know. Otherwise, this is all we have with reference to open test and its discussion. Thank you, everyone. All the best, and we will go through the results in very detailed manner. We will let you people know also about the results. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.